There's no time.
Lost.
The time is
13
o'clock.
Hey, you guys. Us once again.
Yeah.
Episode 189.
It's going to be a good one. Good old... You tell them. You tell them who it is. They can tell just by the title card.
Going back to Wisconsin for this one.
Yeah.
You know, because remember we did Ed Gein a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Really weird how Wisconsin seemed to produce these kind of mild-mannered cannibal necrophiles.
Yeah.
What's up with that, Wisconsin?
This one's going to be about Jeffrey.
Jeffrey.
Remember that guy screaming after, Jeffrey, I hate you, Jeffrey! I hate you, Jeffrey! She's freaking out in the court.
Well, yeah, that was like the sister of one of the
Yeah,
victims.
Fucking wigging the fuck out. I hate you, Jeffrey!
Yeah, I don't fucking blame him. Yeah, there's if you're wondering, it's in most of the documentaries about him. But yeah, I saw that earlier today. Yeah, so we're gonna talk about good old Jeffrey Dahmer, the people Dahmer, as people call him. It's like, oh, that's terrible.
Dude, he was a wreck, man.
Yeah, and it's like, he's one of those ones where, I'm not saying I feel sorry for him, because I don't really.
Nah.
But some people do, and I can kind of see why. He's another one, too, that it's like, as messed up as his crimes were, there didn't really seem to be any... It's like he wasn't abused, he didn't really have anything in his childhood that would have made you think that it was going to go down that way.
We killed his first victim when he was a kid, so...
He was 18.
Yeah, but still, he was in high school when he did it. That's what I meant by a kid. And just doing that is enough to probably fuck you up.
Yeah.
To have that hanging over you. And then he had these weird sexual fantasies. You know?
Yeah, he just seemed like a fucking weird dude all around.
Dude.
I still haven't seen My Friend Dahmer, which is supposed to be like a really good movie. It's based on a graphic novel about a friend of his. You know, it's like from the perspective of a friend of his, like in high school. But I've heard it's really good. I haven't seen it yet, so you know, we'll see how it goes. I definitely do want to see it. It's on my to-see list.
What are you doing, Poop?
Oh my goodness.
Okay.
Pookie came in and she's like all tearing
up.
stuff up. So before we get into talking about Mr. Dahmer, I think I only have a couple of shout-outs. We have 2 new patrons this week. I think I mentioned Hobo Nasty before, because he was the one that asked you about the National Guard question.
Okay, yeah.
Sorry, Pookie's playing with the camera.
Yeah.
And also we have one named Justin. So hi, you guys. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your support. Any little support, and even if you just want to share videos and shit like that, that really helps a lot too. Liking them, doing all that kind of crap.
Yeah.
You guys know how YouTube works. Did you have any other shout-outs you wanted to...
No, not really. Now that we got the Sidetrack show going, you know, we can kind of just focus. We don't have to, you know what I mean? We don't have to keep the audiences updated as much because we're updating them.
Because we're updating them like pretty much every day in real time.
Right.
Yeah, so that does help. It's funny because when we did the show last week, because we had just started doing like the Sidetrack shows, and I was thinking to myself, oh, well, now we're doing the Sidetrack shows with all these like other random shit that we're talking about. It's like we probably won't get as many... We won't go off on as many tangents like on the actual show. Actual show ended up being 3.5 hours long.
Yeah, we did it anyway.
We did it anyway.
You know.
It'll probably happen on this one too, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Oh well.
You know, Tom's gonna Tom. You know what I'm talking about?
Can we please have that be the next t-shirt?
Yeah,
like just a little 13 o'clock logo that says Tom's gonna Tom.
Tom's gonna Tom. You know, just I'm gonna do it, you know.
Oh, somebody in the YouTube comments, and I couldn't remember, somebody asked what the recipe for KugelCon was again.
Yeah.
And I said, right, it's equal parts tequila, pineapple juice,
yeah.
And is it guava nectar or mango? Yeah, okay.
Guava.
I got it right then.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw it. I confirmed that in the comments.
Oh, okay, good. I didn't see that you confirmed it or not.
Yeah, it's equal parts of those 3. You can adjust them to taste if you want it to be stronger. You know, you can add more tequila to it. And you do that over ice. And, it's a good drink.
Yeah, and you have specific types of tequila that you like to use in it.
You want silver tequila.
Yeah.
But if you don't have that, man, I like Hornitos. Hornitos is really good in it.
Yeah, we had to get Hornitos last time we were at the Sam's liquor store because all the Sam's brand was gone.
Yeah.
Although they were pretty well stocked otherwise. Actually, I hate to say, but I probably should brave the epidemic and go out to
We gotta
the
get booze.
liquor store tomorrow because I am
Yeah.
completely out. I'm out of
Yeah.
whiskey. I'm out of vodka. I'm out of
Right.
everything. But yeah, so we gotta go do that tomorrow. All right, so let's start talking about old Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah. This dude here, man.
Yeah, this is some messed up stuff. He reminds me of Ed Gein a lot, just in
Yeah.
the sense that he doesn't come across as someone who's like a sadist necessarily. They just like Gein, he's kind of like a product killer rather than a process killer. Pretty much.
Yeah, he just wanted that end product of a body. He was trying to make a damn real doll. This is before real dolls existed.
Yeah, essentially that's what he was trying to do.
That's what he was trying to do, yeah.
And honestly, it's like, yeah, he was a necrophiliac, but I also feel like he wanted...
He tried
I
to
don't
make a
know
zombie.
I don't know if he necessarily needed them to be dead.
No.
He just wanted them to like not move around and
Yeah,
stuff.
he wanted them to be quiet and not interact. He didn't want anybody looking at him. It goes back to that same thing.
Yeah.
I think they got some dudes that are just, they got so many sexual hang-ups and they don't want to be looked at when they're having sex. They don't want anybody to be there. So they want it to be kind of like masturbation.
Yeah, it's like they want somebody to be there, but not.
Not really.
And they don't want
They don't want anybody judging them.
Yeah, they don't want the burden of having to like,
Yeah.
cater to someone else's sexual needs as well as their own sexual
Right,
needs.
right.
I feel like he even said something like that,
Yeah.
like word for word. So, old Jeffrey Dahmer was born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin in 1960. Now, his parents were Lionel and Joyce. And as I said, he had a really pretty fairly normal, life, like a childhood. A little bit dysfunctional, but nothing out of the ordinary. You know what I mean? No abuse, nothing like that.
He was gay and getting rejected, though.
Well,
That's probably the only thing.
not so much by his family because
No,
he
by
said
the dudes.
that. Yeah, he said that he didn't really realize, until he was
Yeah.
probably like 12, 13, 14,
Yeah.
that he was gay. I think he was kind of bothered by it initially, but later on, like when he got into his 20s, it didn't really seem to bother him so much because he would go and hang out with gay bars and stuff like that. And from everything that I've heard, he was actually fairly popular. He didn't really have much because he was, a nice looking dude, kind of. And so he didn't really seem to have all that much trouble in getting people to like come back to his place with him.
Yeah, but I remember
Although some of them he did like, say he was going to give them money.
in high school he was trying to hook up with guys, though, and he was failing. He was
Yeah,
trying to talk him into it.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't really hear that much about that, but
Well,
he
that's
did
why
kind
he
of.
killed that first one.
Yeah, well, that was just a guy that he picked up.
Right.
He didn't know
I
him.
thought that was a guy from school, though.
No.
He was working out with him.
No,
Oh, it wasn't?
he just picked him up. He was a hitchhiker.
That's
It
not
wasn't-
how I remember the story.
No, that's not. He
the same guy?
he was just a random
Maybe I get
dude.
it confused with something else.
Yeah.
I thought he took a dude. He was working out with some dude. I think it was. He thought he went to high school with that guy.
No,
Okay.
it was
Killed him and then crushed up his bones with a hammer.
Well, he did do that, but it's like that.
He didn't go to
was
school
a,
with him. Okay.
Yeah, it was a guy he didn't know him.
Okay.
He just picked him up hitchhiking. But yeah, so his parents they wanted the kid. He was their first kid, and he seemed like a really normal, like happy baby. His dad was kind of like away a lot because he was studying for his PhD. His mom had some mental issues in the sense that she seemed kind of like high strung, kind of like attention seeking, kind of needy type of behavior and stuff like that. But like I said, neither one of them were abusive or anything like that. And he was a pretty normal kid, like up until he was about 6 years old. So we'll get into that in a minute. Now, his dad Lionel actually wrote a book later on where he kind of talked a lot about Dahmer as a kid and everything. And he said, some stuff that Jeffrey did as a kid, it didn't seem weird at the time because it seemed like shit that other kids were doing, which it was. But then in light of what happened later, he's like, now I look back and see it and it seems really strange and everything like that. Because he said one incident that he remembered, he's like, so when Jeffrey was 4 years old, his dad was apparently, I guess there were like all these little bones of like little animals like underneath the house. Like I guess like a cat had killed birds or something like that. So there were all these bones under there. And the dad was like cleaning it out. Now the dad was a scientist. He was like a chemist. And So he like knew about like acids and dissolving things and like how to bleach bones and things like that. And he said that Jeffrey was like, when he was 4, he was really, really interested like in these bones. Like he was fascinated with like all the bones and like the noise they made like when they dropped in the bucket and everything like that.
He was in anatomy and...
Yeah, he was like really, really interested in that stuff. Which, when a boy is 4 years old, that's not that weird. I mean, I've known like a lot of little kids. I have brothers, and it's like, you know, I've known other little kids. You know, my parents ran a daycare for a long time. Like other little boys, they like gross things, and they like...
I loved dead shit.
That's what I mean. They like shit like that.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't have raised any eyebrows at the time, because that's pretty common, and he was pretty little.
I think I told a story, you know, growing up in the 70s. Me and all my friends from my block, you know, we were, you know, maybe 10, between that 8 and like 10, maybe 11, around that age. We would go down the railroad tracks with sticks and shit and look for stuff that had been hit by the damn railroad, you know, by the train. You'd find dead dogs out there, and just, you know, eventually we outgrew it.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Just want to see something that was gross, stank, you know, lift it over, fucking all the gas hitching, you fucking maggots running, you vomiting, throwing up.
That's what I mean.
Like, well, of course, man, you know what I mean? Fucking, but it's just, your kids. Kids are just little boys are like a couple steps above a dog.
And they like gross shit.
They love gross shit, and they fucking run in packs like little dogs. And dogs would join us sometimes. We're running around, and dogs would get involved too. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so.
You know where? You ever heard of West Coast Choppers, right? Jesse James.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of that was over there. That's in Long Beach, Carson area. And where his shop is where we were playing.
Yeah.
That's the railroad tracks. Right behind Dominguez Elementary School.
Oh, okay.
That's where it was.
Yeah.
I think it's all built up now. And I think that's now, according to the photos, that's where Jesse James's studio is now. It's behind where Dominguez Elementary used to be.
Yeah.
But where his shop was, we had an adventure, pretty much. Before they built that industrial park, we found a huge stack of white buckets. They were sealed, plastic buckets. This must have been stacked 8 feet high. Must have been 40 of them out there. Man, we were so curious. So we knocked some of those buckets off, and we worked for about a half hour trying to pry the damn lid off the top of that bucket. And man, the smell, just fucking white slop came out of it. And we just immediately gagged and threw up, and there was bones and shit. You know what it was?
What's that?
Gallons and gallons of rotten fish heads and fish guts
Oh, boy.
that somebody had put in plastic bags and then put inside those damn plastic buckets, and they dumped them out there. You know, it was an illegal dump.
Yeah.
But yeah,
They're like, hey, I bet a bunch of dumb little boys are going to come along and open this up, and won't they get a surprise?
It came from some kind of fish butcher shop somewhere, and that's because there was enough of them to where that came out of some kind of factory.
That's pretty
Or
gross.
somebody's butcher shop.
Yeah.
Man, and fucking my friend Bobby Navarrete got some of it on him, man. He fucking staked the whole fucking day. He had to go back home and fucking change his shirt.
Yeah, you have to take a fucking bleach bath after
man,
that. I'm sure his mom was super excited having to like do that fucking
what
laundry.
was creepy is that it was white with yellow fucking tinge to it. Well, not yellow, orange.
Yeah.
Like orange highlights. That's what rotten fish heads in the heat, in the summer heat, that's what it turns into.
Yeah.
At least it did that night. Man,
Yeah.
fuck.
Great.
But anyway, that's the shit little boys do.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So his dad didn't think it was weird at the time. He just thought, oh, cool, you know, my kid's like interested in science, or he's interested in anatomy.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll be a scientist or something like that. That's not how that turned out, but you know, he was only 4 at the time. At this point, like, you know, as I said, he'd been born in Milwaukee, but they actually moved to Iowa when he was fairly young because his dad was going to college there. He was studying for his PhD. So now, when Jeff was 6 years old, it was found that he had a double hernia, which seems a little weird for a 6-year-old, but, you know, it happens. So he had to get surgery. Now, strangely, according to his family, it seems that after he recovered from the surgery when he was 6 years old, he really wasn't the same anymore. And I don't really know if it was just a coincidence or if something went wrong with the surgery. I don't see how a hernia surgery could mess up your brain because that's not where your hernia is. Yeah, it could be. But, I mean, according to his family, according to his dad, everybody like that, they said after he had that surgery when he was 6, he'd been like a real outgoing, like happy kid, completely normal. They're like, after that, he started getting a little more They said he wasn't real confident anymore. He got really, really shy, really, introverted, which he hadn't been prior to that. He didn't want to go to school. He didn't want to, he didn't like to be around people. Like, it seemed to stress him out. Like, he had, like, all this anxiety and stuff. So they said that, he hadn't been like that at all beforehand. But then after that, he kind of started going in that direction. And that's kind of the direction that he continued going in after that. So, that seemed a little weird. So, 1966, Lionel had got his PhD. And he got a job as a research chemist, and this was in Akron, Ohio. Now, at this point, Joyce, the wife, the mom, she was pregnant with another kid. And this kid was born, and his name was David. They actually let Jeffrey Dahmer name the kid because he had been getting, like I said, he'd been getting so isolated and introverted and shy and everything. They wanted to kind of try and involve him back in the family circle and everything. So they gave him the task of, like, giving his brother a name. So there's a couple pictures of him as a little kid, like, holding his baby brother. So, like I said, he just starts getting more and more introverted until at times it's like he was just like, he would just answer questions with, like, a single syllable and shit like that. So other than the surgery, his dad thought, well, maybe it's because we moved to Ohio from Wisconsin. Like, maybe because we pulled him away from everything that he knew and his little friends and everything. And, he didn't really get over it. And his dad said, too, he's like, I was kind of like that when I was a kid. You know what I mean? He's like, I was kind of shy and introverted and everything, and I got over it. So he probably will, too. Maybe it's just a phase that he's going through. So he was like, he seemed like he was, keeping an eye on the situation, but I guess it wasn't super alarming or unusual enough that he, wouldn't need to go get any help or anything like that. So, 1967, they bought a new house, and Jeffrey seemed to actually get a little bit better. He kind of struck up a friendship with this kid named Lee, and, was doing a little bit better in school, seemed to, like, associate with his teachers and things like that. Now, apparently, he really liked this one teacher that he had. I don't know if it was his math teacher. I can't remember what subject she taught. But for some reason, he thought, he was a pretty little kid. So he brought her a present, which was like a bucket full of tadpoles. Mm-hmm. Which, he was a little kid, and she was like, oh, thank you so much, and everything like that. Now, he found out later, though, that she had given the tadpoles to his friend Lee. And that really made Jeffrey very angry because he felt betrayed. Yeah. Because, like, hey, I gave you those, and you were supposed to keep them. So he goes over to Lee's house, he finds the bucket of tadpoles, and he pours motor oil in it, and he kills all of them. Damn. So he was only 7 years old at this time, but that's still kind of messed up. So, as I said, he's getting more, it's not even a sense of him just getting, like, more shy and everything like that. They said his whole, like, physical, aspect changed, like his whole demeanor changed. It's like he used to be, kind of a fun, bubbly, kind of, moving around kid and everything like that. And now he seemed like really stiff. Like they said, he stood really stiffly and, and he barely talked. And it was just like this really, really weird transformation. And it's like sometimes he would just like sit in his room and like stare at the TV or stare at the wall. And like he seemed to have like this real dead-eyed stare. You know what I mean? So it definitely does seem like something...
Maybe something happened with that anesthesia.
Maybe physically happened to him. Because that seems a little extreme for just like he's upset about a move or something like that. I mean, that definitely seems like something got broke in there somewhere.
Maybe he had some kind of weird reaction to that anesthesia. Fucked up his brain chemistry or something.
That's maybe.
Maybe it like damaged a certain parts of his brain that... like made him conscious. He was only kind of like semi-conscious or in an altered state of consciousness, something like that.
Yeah, because they said he just got real, like he wasn't even in there. Like he would just sit there and like kind of stare off into space for a really long time.
Yeah, it sounds like something that anesthesia would do to you, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's like I hadn't really thought about that, but I'm like, it had to just do something with that. I mean, like I said, according to his family, they're the ones
they gave him a bad batch of anesthesia.
Yeah, could be.
Fucked his brain up.
So around this time, he's getting into like his teenage years and stuff like that. He took to, his dad didn't know this at the time, but he had actually taken to, like, kind of riding around on his bike or walking around the neighborhood or whatever, and he would collect, like, dead animals in garbage bags.
Yeah.
And then he would take them home and, like, strip all the flesh off and, like, bleach their bones, and, like, he had to, like, keep a collection. He just wanted to keep a collection of, like, all his bones and stuff. Now, it has been suggested, and this is very common with serial killers, obviously, that he tortured animals, but that does not seem to be the case. Other than killing the tadpoles, they said he actually had pets, that he had a dog named Frisky, and he loved it, and everything like that. So it's like they don't think that he killed animals. He just liked to collect dead animals and, like, take them apart and see what was in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like I said, that seems a little less, it's still weird, but it's less alarming.
He's not killing them, he's just taking them.
Yeah, he's just finding roadkill and, like, you know,
wanting
going,
to get those bones.
neat. Yeah, and, like, taking them apart and stuff.
Yeah.
So,
getting a fascination with the internal workings of creatures.
That's, it definitely does seem that that's, like, what he was doing. So, at this stage, it seems like he's a teenager. He's not really even, he just seems like he's drifting through life like a zombie. It's like, he's not even, like, fighting with his parents or anything like that, because he just didn't seem to care about anything. He just seemed really, like, you know what I mean, just lackadaisical and zonked out about stuff. Yeah. Now, right around the time he's about 14 years old, he admitted later on that this was around the time that he started having sexual fantasies about men, and also fantasies about killing men or rendering them unconscious and raping them, is what he initially started thinking about. This was also around the time that he realized that he was gay, obviously. So one of the first incidents that he could remember from this time period, when he was about 14 years old, was he developed a fascination with this guy in his neighborhood who he would see jogging every day. Like, he would be jogging past his house or in the park or whatever, like, nearby. So he took to, like, hiding in the bushes and, like, watching this guy jog past every day. And he started having fantasies that he was gonna, like, hit the guy in the head with something and knock him out. And then he was going to, like, lay next to the guy and, like, jerk off or rape the guy, right? So that was his thing. And he did this for a while, and then one day he decided he was going to do it. So he hides in the bushes. He has, like, a big baseball bat or something like that. And when this guy comes by, he's going to hit him, and then he's going to do all this other stuff. And for whatever reason, that guy did not jog that day. So I don't know if he just thought, oh, well, that's the end of that. Because they said he just kind of, like, abandoned that plan, like, after that happened. But he was supposedly going to do it. And I was like, I wonder if that guy knows about that. How close he came to.
I don't know. Either he made that up.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just saying. Right. It's, you know. The thing about Jeffrey Dahmer is that when he got caught, he readily confessed. He did not try to say he didn't do anything.
He was kind of an attention seeker. He liked the attention.
And, well, another thing, too, is that he thought that he knew what he had done was terrible, and he thought he should be punished for it. Yeah. He didn't really, like, even later on when he was in prison and he got stabbed and shit like that, well, you know, even before he got killed, but he didn't, like, protest or anything because he just thought he deserved it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Kind of like committing suicide.
Yeah, so, you know, that was that. So, when he's in high school, it seems like he wasn't bullied or anything like that. He just was seen as kind of like an oddball, like just one of those kind of weird, he wasn't a stoner, but that type of guy who was always, he was kind of known mostly for pranks, like pulling weird pranks or like just doing weird shit. He was like one of those dudes that, you know, everybody would be in the classrooms and it'd be really quiet, and then he would all of a sudden run screaming down the hall like, fire drill, like he would do shit like that.
Yeah.
And it got to a point where if anybody that pulled like a goofy stunt like that in the high school, it was called doing a Dahmer. You know what I mean? So like everybody knew about like what a weird goofball this guy was. Also, when he was 14, he started becoming an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Several people that went to school with him, they interviewed like this one girl that sat next to him like in some of his classes and stuff, said he would just come in with like a fucking cup or a thermos or whatever, and it had fucking scotch in it.
Yeah.
14.
Yeah, I knew guys like that.
Yeah.
And they never recovered.
Yeah, he was that kind of guy. So he was just always drinking at school all the time, starting from a very, very young age. But he did he wasn't complete. He was like a pretty average student. They said he was actually pretty smart. Had an above average IQ. They said he's smart, but he just didn't really apply himself. He was just kind of like one of those bums, yeah, whatever. And he was like a burnout type.
Wasn't motivated.
Right. Obviously he was drunk all the time, but he played tennis. He was on the tennis team. I think he was on the yearbook staff, or, he wrote for the school newspaper or something like that. So he wasn't a complete, non-entity. He was kind of, and he had a prom date, a girl and everything like that. And he went out with her a couple times and all this other kind of shit. Another thing that he would do, this is kind of fucked up, but I guess, the family, I can't remember if it was a family friend or somebody that worked for them or something like that, and he had cerebral palsy. And Jeffrey used to do an impression of that guy, and that's something that he would act like someone with cerebral palsy, at school, and just do that kind of thing. And there's several people that went to school with him were yeah, we remember him doing that stuff. Right. So, classy.
Well, back then it should just be funny.
I guess. Well, some people thought it was funny. They remembered it.
It's a long time ago.
Yeah. So around the time that he was getting ready to graduate from high school, his parents' relationship had been deteriorating. As I said, I don't think there was any physical abuse or anything like that, but they just weren't really getting along. They were fighting a lot, and other kind of shit. So, when Jeffrey was almost 18 years old, his parents got divorced. Now, because Jeffrey was 18 or nearly so, there wasn't any question of a custody battle or anything like that. However, his brother David was still young, and there was a brutal custody battle between the parents for custody of David. Now, in the midst of all of this, brouhaha, everyone kind of forgot about Jeffrey because they were busy divorcing and fighting over the other kid and everything like that. So what ended up happening was that his dad left to go stay at a hotel for a while, because he was I think he was dating someone else by this point, or or something like that. So he goes to stay at a hotel. The mom takes David and goes to another city, to stay with relatives for a little while, and they leave Jeffrey in the house by himself.
Yeah, that's weird, but I guess they still paid the rent, or was the house?
I guess, because I don't know.
House might have been paid for.
I mean, the dad came back later. You know what I mean? He came back to the house later on, but he was left there by himself for a while, almost like they forgot about him. And he did say later that during this time period, he felt like he was really neglected, and they just forgot about him because they were so busy. yeah, they all just took off in other directions.
Wonder how long he was in the house by himself.
It wasn't that long. I think it was
days, weeks, years.
I think it was a few months actually.
Few months, okay.
I think, but correct me if I'm wrong. Now, it was shortly.
And how old again was he?
He's about 18.
That'd be weird.
It would be.
You'd be in your family house, and all of a sudden they all leave,
and they're all gone,
and it's just you in there.
That's what I mean.
Age.
It's that for some reason that really struck me as very
weird.
strange. I mean, even though 18, you're technically an adult, but
yeah, it'd be like your family moved away and then you're in the house.
Mm-hmm.
That'd just be a weird feeling.
It just kind of left you there, and that's honestly how he interpreted it. And they just abandoned him there, which they kind of did. I mean, when you think about it. So shortly after this happened, and shortly after he graduated high school, in the summer of 1978. This is when his first murder took place, right after they left him in the house by himself, which probably shouldn't have happened. So he picks up this guy who's hitchhiking. This guy's named Stephen Hicks, who was also around 17 or 18 years old. Stephen Hicks was hitchhiking to a concert. I don't know what band it was. But for some reason, Jeffrey was able to kind of pick him up. He gave him a ride part way. He's like, oh, come back to my house. We'll, have some beers and, do whatever. So they had some beers. Apparently they had sex consensually. And then Steven's like, yeah, man, I got to get going, because he wanted to go to this concert. He was really excited about it, and he wanted to leave. Jeffrey did not want him to leave. So he picks up a 10-pound dumbbell.
Yeah.
hit him on the head from behind with a dumbbell 2 times, and then which knocked him out. Then I guess it says he strangled him with the dumbbell, so I'm guessing he took the dumbbell and like pulled it like up around his neck like that, like until he couldn't breathe anymore, like that. So yeah, so he strangled him to death. Then he took all of the victim's clothes off and stood over it and jacked off on it.
There you go. Damn.
The next day, and then he just I guess he just left the body sitting there, and then the next day he took it down to the basement and cut it up and buried what was left in a grave in the backyard. And then later on, like a few weeks later, he went back in there, dug up what was left, took all the flesh off, dissolved the flesh in acid, and then flushed it down the toilet. And then took the bones and crushed them all with a sledgehammer and scattered them in the woods. So that was his first murder. Now, he didn't do another one for a really long time.
Yeah, it was like a decade, wasn't it?
I think it was 9 years.
9 years, yeah.
Something like that.
It was after he got out of service, I think, wasn't it?
I mean, he did other shit in there, like in the interim, like lesser crimes. But that was his first one, and they actually didn't find out about that until much later on. So
Must have spooked him.
Maybe so, or...
Spooked him, and he decided he wasn't going to do it for a while.
Yeah, I don't know.
Or again. He probably thought he was never going to do it again.
Yeah, you don't really know what's going on.
And then shit got worse later on, and then he went back to it. Something like that.
So 6 weeks after the murder, Jeffrey's dad, Lionel, comes back to the house with his, I don't think, it was his fiancée. So I guess he hadn't married the new wife yet. His name was Sherry. And they came back, and I guess they were surprised to find Jeffrey living there by himself. I think that they were under the impression that the mom was still living in the house. But she had left, so apparently there was some communication lines had been broken. They weren't really keeping track of where one another was, because I guess they were fighting.
Right.
So I guess one of them was assuming the other one was still at the house with Jeffrey, and like neither of them were. So the dad seemed very surprised that Jeffrey was there by himself. So Jeffrey decides he's going to go to college, or his dad made him go to college. I'm not really sure. I've seen things that say both things. So he enrolls at Ohio State University. He's going to major in business. However, he only went there for 1 term, and he was drunk pretty much the whole time. They're like, he barely showed up at class. He failed almost all of his classes. They're like, the only one that he did well in was one called riflery, which he got a B.
On shooting rifles?
Shooting rifles, I guess.
Okay, yeah.
He was good at that.
Yeah.
All the other classes, not so much. Yeah, they said that he just, like I said, he wasn't dumb. He just didn't really...
He didn't give a shit.
He didn't really give a shit. He didn't really want to apply himself. And I was thinking when I was reading about this, I know this is like a really weird and creepy thing to say, maybe, but he reminds me of a guy I knew in high school that we kind of hung out with. He was not exactly he wasn't as weird as this guy, obviously, but it was the same kind of vibe. And that guy actually ended up shooting himself a few years later, like after high school. Because we had hung out, like a whole bunch of us.
By accident or on purpose?
No, on purpose.
Okay.
On purpose. Yeah, so, I remember my other friend like calling me and telling me about that. And I think it was 4 or 5 years after high school we found out about that. But he kind of reminded me, his personality is kind of similar, but he wasn't as weird. So his dad, like one time, while Jeffrey is in college, sort of, his dad shows up at the dorm or wherever he was staying, and he's like, basically, he goes in Jeffrey's room, and there was just like fucking empty liquor bottles just like all over the place, and it was just like a total disaster. Now, apparently the dad had paid for him to go, like either that whole year or like the whole term or whatever, but because he had just like flunked out the first term, like Jerry's like, well, fuck it. It's like he just left and didn't go back. So he was only there for like 3 months. Now at this point, his dad, like I said, now some people have blamed his dad. It's like, oh, you know, they neglected him and all this other kind of stuff. But it did seem like his dad did know that there was something going on with the kid and was like trying to help him out. You know what I mean? There's only so much you can do.
I remember the interviews after he got caught and everything of the dad. The dad seemed all right.
He did. He seems like an okay dude.
He was like trying to understand, and he goes, well, you know, he's mentally ill. That's
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
But yeah. So at this stage, it's January of 1979, and his dad is basically like, well, you flunked out of college. It's like you can't just lay around the house. You have to either get a job or go join the army. So Jeffrey goes and joins the army. Now, he initially trained as a medical specialist at Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio, Texas, and then he got shipped out to West Germany, where he served as a combat medic.
Yeah.
Now, he actually did pretty good in the army starting out. Like they said, he was, average, above average soldier. He seemed to get along well with people. However, the drinking was still a problem. Now, for the first year, it didn't really seem to be a problem, and he seemed to be, like, enjoying himself, maybe getting his life back together, but then the drinking started interfering and shit like that. And later on, it came to light that he allegedly raped 2 men while he was stationed in West Germany.
Dang.
Yeah.
They were German guys?
No, they were in his...
soldiers?
Yeah, there were other soldiers that
Shit.
were, like, stationed with him.
Man.
Yeah. He, like,
They didn't do anything about it?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, he drugged them.
Okay.
Apparently, he drugged him and raped him, and then, but they, like, remembered it enough, and one of them was raped, like, multiple times, like, over an extended time period, because they were, like, bunking together. They, like, were stationed together. Now, both of these men, I can't remember what their names are. Like, I saw one documentary that said what they were. Both of these men claimed that they had reported this shit at the time, but that nothing was done about it. Either they weren't believed, or there was just no further, like, follow-up on it.
That's fucking odd. That's not the army I knew.
Yeah. But...
Man, there was shit like that kind of happened in a unit I was in. And that dude... Fucking brand new private. Everybody drunk off their ass up in Korea. Alright. Fucking NCO, who was new. Fishy motherfucker. Fucking called this private in there, planted a big old kiss on his fucking lips and shit. And that fucking private ran out of there and went right back over to his company and told his fucking squad leader.
Yeah.
And the whole fucking regiment, the whole fucking battalion was fucked up. Drunk,
Yeah.
That dude's whole fucking chain of command, like fucking 5 of those fucking squad leaders went down there and beat that dude's ass.
Yeah.
MPs got them all, arrested them. They fucking tried him and shit. Fucking nothing happened to the dude. They couldn't prove that he did anything,
Right.
But the NCOs that beat that dude's ass, a lot of them, not all of them lost their careers, but a couple of them, they all had to do stockade time.
Yeah.
Yeah, beat that dude's ass.
This might have been a situation where it was reported, but because there was maybe no physical evidence, or it was just like their word or something, and they didn't, just both of them said that nothing was really done about it, or that they weren't really believed.
Yeah, but those dudes were fucking furious. They didn't give a shit about any UCMJ or anything like that. They were drunk at the time. They were just like, fucking, you did that to one of our soldiers? This is a brand new kid.
Yeah.
They went and fucked that dude up.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you this, the dude did it.
You think?
Yeah.
He was sketchy?
Yeah. Yeah, the dude did it. I ain't gonna mention any names.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably better not to.
Yeah.
Don't pull a Tiger King.
Yeah.
It'd be like saying this, that, and the other thing.
No, he did it.
Yeah. But, so because he was pretty much, at this stage, Jeffrey Dahmer was, like, drunk all the time. He'd been in the service for 2 years, but they were like, look, your drinking is interfering with your ability to do your job. Now, he was discharged honorably. They didn't really feel like, I think they said, like, in the report or whatever, that, yeah, he drinks a lot and stuff, but we don't think that the problems that he's having in the military are going to be a problem when he gets back into civilian life. So they just gave him an honorable discharge. Which, if only they'd known. So he gets sent, when he gets discharged, they sent him to Fort Jackson, South Carolina, where he was debriefed. And then they gave him a plane ticket to anywhere in the country. So because he had not only flunked out of college, but he had also gotten sort of kicked out of the army also, he didn't want to go back to Ohio to live with his dad and stepmom because he was, like, embarrassed. He was, like, ashamed that he had failed again. So he went to Miami Beach for a little while. Now, he actually did find a job there. He worked in a deli, like a sandwich shop. and he started living in a hotel that was close by the restaurant. However, because he was still a drunk and he spent pretty much every extra penny on booze, he didn't pay for the hotel room after a time, and they kicked him out of there. So for a while, he was homeless and kind of slept on the beach while he was working at the deli. So finally, he, after a little while, I guess he couldn't really take it anymore, and he called up his dad and said, hey, can I come back and live there? And the dad said that he could, on the condition that, he actually look for work and he actually, do chores around the house and not just, lay around being a useless bum. However, he gets back to the house. He has not stopped drinking at all. 2 weeks after he arrives back at his dad and stepmom's house, he is arrested for drunken disorderly. Fined $60, given a suspended 10-day jail sentence. Now, during this time period, it does seem like his dad was trying to, get him to stop drinking, but it seems that he was unsuccessful in that regard. And after a while, the dad and the stepmom, now apparently the stepmom was kind of at her wit's end, which, you can understand that. This isn't even her kid, and it's like she's dealing with this. Well, he's not even a kid anymore. He's 20 at this stage. And he's just laying around the house like a drunk weirdo. So finally, the dad and the stepmom are like, okay, well, why don't you go live with your grandmother? Now, the grandmother lived in West Allis, Wisconsin. And her and Jeffrey seemed like they were pretty close, you know what I mean? So they thought maybe she could straighten him out. Now, it did seem to work for a little while, I should note. He moves in with his grandma, and he went to church with her. He helped her out around the house. He actually did go out looking for jobs and shit like that, and mostly behaved himself, although he still kept drinking even though she didn't like it. He actually ended up getting a job in early 1982 as a phlebotomist in a blood plasma center in Milwaukee. And he worked there for almost a year, but then he got laid off. And then after that, he laid around for 2 years without a job. And kind of just sponging off his grandma. She would just give him money every now and then. Now, right before he got laid off, he was arrested again, this time for indecent exposure. Apparently, in August of 1982, he had gone to Wisconsin State Fair Park and exposed himself to about 25 women and children, in a big crowd. So he got convicted. But all he got was a fine, $50.
Damn.
See, it just seems like he did all this. I mean, yeah, he murdered somebody, okay, already. But it just seems like in the interim, in between the first murder and then it was a long time before there was a second one, but there were just so many little incidents and little red flags, which at any point, if he had been stopped or if he had been arrested or placed in jail for a longer time, then maybe all the subsequent murders would not have happened. I mean, this dude killed 17 people. Yeah. He killed 17 people. You know what I mean?
don't think it was exactly the same guy who killed the first guy, then that other 17. I think there was a pause in between. It's he changed. I think.
Yeah.
I think he killed the first one and didn't like it. And then tried to hide the fact that he did it. Then he probably went into denial. Then tried to rationalize why he did it and justify it. And he was like, I won't do that again.
Yeah.
So then he's experimenting with these other ways of trying to fucking get off. But then as his life declines, he gets worse. And he goes back to killing people.
Yeah.
But I think it's different.
Yeah, it definitely does seem like the motivation was slightly different.
Because of what he was doing with the bodies later on. He didn't do that to the first one. It's like he evolved into a new killer.
Yeah.
A very different kind.
Yeah.
And, I've listened to interviews with child soldiers and stuff from Africa and how you can get a kid and turn him into just basically a serial murderer. And they would just do weird shit with him. And, you go into a town or into a village and you want to recruit from that village, and it's kind of like an enemy village. So what you do is you go in there and take over and get some kids and say, we can we're going to kill all of you, you know. But we'll let you go if you kill your parents. You can join us. So they'll get a kid to kill his own parents.
Yeah.
And then afterwards they say, only a weak man would have killed their own parents. They would have rather died than killed their own. So they use the guilt of that first one.
Right.
All right. And like, we're going to teach you how to be strong so you don't have to do that. And what they report is that the first time you kill somebody, you get this kind of weird fucking numbness to it. But then it wears off. And you start feeling guilt. But if you go out and kill again, you can reestablish that numb feeling where you're not. So every time they kill a new person, it kind of erases the feelings of all the people that you've killed preceding that one.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
You can picture what I'm talking about? It's that, and I think certain serial killers kind of have that. So I think what happened is the first one he killed probably shocked him, but it fucked with his mind. Caused him to decline. And eventually he got so bad he went back to killing in order to erase all the deaths that he had already caused.
Yeah.
In other words, like, going into it head first is a way to conquer that feeling of guilt.
Yeah.
If that makes sense to you.
Yeah.
That's how it's been described.
Yeah, I definitely do think that's
something like that.
What went on. Because it does seem like a very long latent period, which is unusual.
I bet you had he not killed that first one, he never would have killed those other ones.
Yeah, probably not. Although BTK did that though, didn't he? There was like a big gap in the. Other ones have had that, but it's usually it's pretty unusual. So in January of 1985, Jeffrey Dahmer famously gets a job as a mixer at the Ambrosia Chocolate Factory in Milwaukee. He worked on the night shift. Now, he says that right around this time that he got this job, there was like a seemingly minor incident that happened that seemed to like reawaken all of his kind of like weird sexual proclivities. He says that he's in the West Allis Public Library, like reading a book or something. And he says this guy who he didn't know, like, walks through there and, like, throws a piece of paper, like, on his book or, like, on the table that he was working on. And he, like, opened it, and it was, like, essentially propositioning him for a blowjob. Hey, want to come in the bathroom and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, ooh, who knew that libraries were so scandalous?
They didn't have Grindr back then.
I guess not.
Yeah.
So, apparently, according to him, it's like he didn't go. But just getting the note was kind of like a sexual thrill, and it got him kind of like thinking all about those fantasies that he'd had when he was a teenager about like wanting to dominate somebody and like having them be unconscious and all this other kind of stuff. So it kind of like brought all that shit back up to the fore. That's what he says anyway. So he kind of started going and putting himself out there, like going out and hanging out in all the gay bars, like in Milwaukee. Hanging out in the, it's in the scene, he's like going to the bathhouses and all that other kind of stuff. So he kind of gets known around the scene a little bit.
Looking for his own personal Rob Halford.
I guess so. Yeah. So he's like going out and about. At this stage, they also think that he stole a mannequin, like a male mannequin from a store, and was like using that, like you said, essentially like a real doll.
Yeah.
And I guess his grandma found it later. Awkward. Like found it in the closet and made him get rid of it. Which I don't know if she knew what he was doing with it or if she just thought it was weird that it was
probably
in there
not.
or whatever. Probably not. So he starts going to all these bathhouses, which in the 80s, were pretty you basically just went there to fucking back rooms. I mean, it's essentially what they.
That's before AIDS.
I mean, yeah, AIDS was a thing, but I feel like this was kind of like the
last of it.
Maybe the early times of it, or maybe or it had started trailing off. I'm not really sure, but he says at this point, so he starts having sexual encounters with people at these bathhouses, which are consensual, but then he starts thinking to himself that, when I'm having sex with these guys, I don't really like the moving around that they do. Yeah, it's really annoying.
Right.
So
can't concentrate.
Yeah.
He's got to concentrate.
I guess. So it's like fucking terrible. So initially he starts drugging them. Like he starts roofing them and, having sex with them while they're unconscious. Now, he did this probably about a dozen times in one of the bathhouses before kind of word got around and everyone found out about it. And he started getting, like, his memberships revoked, like, at all the bathhouses. He started getting kicked out of them, right? He wasn't, like, allowed to go back in there because they found out what he was doing. So then he starts, like, picking dudes up. She just, like, rolled over and went...
Yeah.
She's so weird. So then he started going to these places, picking dudes up and taking them to the hotel rooms and doing the same thing, like, basically roofing them and sexually assaulting them while they were unconscious. So... Then he starts thinking, he's like, okay, well, that's kind of awkward. Then he had a thing where he read about this 18-year-old boy that had died. I don't know how he had died, but he had died recently and they'd buried him. And he got the idea in his head that he was going to go dig that body up.
Damn.
And take it back to his house and, like, do stuff with it. And he actually went to the cemetery with a shovel and everything, but... Apparently the ground was really hard and it was like it was like
too much work.
It was like taking too long and he was just like, yeah, fuck that. So I guess maybe that it's like, well, I was going to like dig up a body like old Egeen, but that was too hard. So I guess maybe it's easier to just make your own bodies.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what the fucking, I don't know if that's what the
so
fucking
you dig
shit
down
was.
and find that casket. How are you going to get that casket open?
And
they're sealed and they're spackled shut.
That's what I mean. And some places, I don't know about Wisconsin or Ohio or anything like that, but some places they actually put the coffin like underneath like a solid like a slab, like a concrete slab. So you can't get in there.
You just pour concrete over the damn coffin.
Yeah, so you can't get in there.
But yeah.
But so I don't know what that was. But he didn't even get down in there. But he had the idea and he went there with the shovel and everything. Like I said, some Ed Gein shit right there.
Ed could get it done. Somehow.
Well, I guess he was like a skinny old man.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't bury him that deep.
I don't know.
Where he was.
It was a long time ago, so maybe the standards weren't as good.
Yeah, maybe they were just like crappy, like wooden coffins.
And he was where, New Hampshire or something like that? Or where?
No, this was Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
Also. Like I said, Wisconsin.
Yeah, Wisconsin, that's right.
The hell's up with all you necrophiliacs in Wisconsin?
Some weird shit.
Is there nothing else to do or what?
Weird shit going on in Wisconsin.
That's what I mean. It's like fucking weird. So, August of 1986, Jeffrey Dahmer gets arrested once again for masturbating in front of two 12-year-old boys while he was near the Kinnickinnick River? Kinnickinnick River, whatever it is.
Little boys fucking went running.
Well, I think from what I heard, I don't know if this is true or not, but I think the boys were just like, whatever. Yeah. I just think they weren't even like scared or anything. They
told somebody.
Just like, whatever, mister.
Yeah.
Now he admitted at first that's what he had been doing when he got arrested, but then later he was like, no, I was just peeing and I didn't know anybody was watching me.
Right.
So they downgraded the charge to disorderly conduct.
Yeah.
And he actually, at this point, he got the 1 year of probation. That's all he got. And he had to go to, like, mandatory counseling.
Yeah.
Which I presume he went to, although I never hear anybody talking about it. You know what I mean?
He had to go to mandatory mansplaining.
Necrosplaining.
Necrosplaining. They're explaining to some man.
Yeah. So, yeah, this is like fucking... But like I said, he's doing this kind of crap and like... Yeah, he's getting arrested, but he's just getting slaps on the wrist and... Yeah, they're sending him to counseling, but it doesn't really seem to be doing anything. And it just seems like, So...
They were worried about other things at the time.
I guess so. So the probation ends a year later. Less than a week after the probation ended, he took his second murder victim. So this is 87. So this has been, like I said, I think it's about 9 years. There was a 9-year gap between the first one, Stephen Hicks.
This is the year I graduated from high school.
Yeah, I just started high school this year, I think.
Yeah.
So his second murder victim, this happened on September 15th, 1987. So Jeffrey is in a gay bar in Milwaukee, I believe, called Club 219. And he starts talking to this other guy in the bar whose name was Stephen Tuomi. Now, they hung out for several hours together and were kind of chatting and getting to know one another and everything like that. And they eventually leave the bar together and they go to a hotel and, they get a room in a hotel. Now, Jeffrey later said that when he first took Stephen to the room, he wasn't intending to kill him. He was just going to do the whole drug and rape thing, which also not good. But he said he wasn't planning to kill him. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what he said. But he says what ended up happening was that, yeah, he gave him the drug and everything, and then the next morning he woke up and Stephen Tuomi was lying under him on the bed, and his chest was all crushed in, and he was all bruised, and he had blood coming out of his mouth, and Jeffrey had, like, fucking bruises all over his fists and stuff like that, as though he had beaten the guy to death.
I don't buy it.
And he said that he didn't have any memory of it, and that he couldn't believe that he had done that. Although later he said, maybe I was trying to get his heart out of his chest.
Yeah, I don't buy that shit.
But he says he doesn't remember it. But, well, like I said, some of the stuff, you have to, like, realize that he pretty much readily confessed to anything. They didn't have to, like, ask him about nothing. As soon as they arrested him, he was just, like, very forthcoming about all the shit that he had done. And he didn't really seem to be, like, exaggerating or making things up or anything. So...
Just sounds to me like he's trying to push the responsibility of how he became or a serial killer by, you know what I mean? He's just trying to kind of say it was an accident.
Yeah. Although, like I said, the other ones he didn't.
Yeah,
like.
I became a serial killer by accident. I didn't choose this. That's what it sounds like he's trying to do.
Yeah, maybe.
I think so.
Although the first murder, he didn't say that was an accident. He said that he did that. He pretty readily admitted that one.
I just think that he's trying to make it look like it was an accident due to his own machinations. He's trying to explain it in a way that makes it good for him.
I guess so.
Through his thought process. I think.
Yeah. So
I think it's hard to fucking beat on somebody and try to kill them and get their heart out of their chest without you knowing that you're doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, how many drugs are they taking?
I don't really know.
I'm just not buying.
I mean, the victim was drugged. I'm assuming. Yeah. Well, and the thing about Jeffrey Dahmer too was that he was a real bad drunk.
So maybe he was just blind drunk and
he admitted that a lot of times, like, even though most of the crimes he did say that he remembered them and he remembered exactly what happened, but he did say that he would often drink a lot, like, before he did them. You know what I mean?
Man, if I were to drink a lot, I just fucking go to sleep.
Yeah,
I don't know how this dude can remain standing.
Well, if you started drinking heavily at 14, I guess you'd be kind of inured to it.
Got a badass resistance.
I guess so, because
you could be blind drunk and still walking around.
And killing people. Because you don't usually hear that. You don't hear much about serial killers drinking to excess and then committing crimes.
No. You'd think he'd have to be pretty sharp.
Yeah, you'd think that. And for him to have gotten away with it for so long as
You know how I am. If I get drunk where I'm really drunk, I'm like, man, I gotta go home.
Well, yeah, it's just a lot of times it just makes you sleepy.
Yeah.
I just get sleepy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he says that he wakes up and the guy's dead and that he hadn't intended to kill him and he's not really sure how it happened. But then he realizes, well, shit, I'm in this hotel and I have to get rid of this fucking body. So he leaves the body in the hotel room. He goes out and buys a big, huge suitcase. Stuffs the body in there. I don't think he cut it up or anything, but he just, like, stuffed it in this big suitcase. Then he gets a taxi and takes the taxi back to his grandmother's house with a fucking body in a suitcase.
Damn. Takes it to grandma's house.
Yeah, takes it to grandma's house, takes it to his room in the basement, cuts the body up, puts the pieces in garbage bags, and puts the bags out on the curb.
And that worked.
Taken out by the... It did indeed.
We have talked about this before in other shows.
Because other killers have done that. It's like, it seems so...
Seems like stupid.
Easy and stupid and also kind of ballsy, I guess, in a horrible way.
But evidently that's a very effective way.
Well, yeah, because then they can't really... I mean, I don't know about nowadays, but they can't really trace it back to you. It's like, once it gets to the dump, it's not like anybody's going to be able to fucking find it.
If in that bag... There's other bags.
There's other shit that
with your name on it. They can't.
Well, yeah, obviously, don't do that. But why listen to me?
Listen to me
giving advice to like, hey, if you're gonna kill somebody and put their remains out on the curb, make sure your fucking phone bill isn't in there next to it, so they know who you are. Pro tip. Yeah. But yeah, so apparently this did work. So he just put the cut up body on the thing. Now, one thing about this, because a lot of the people that he killed in his grandma's house. Now, his grandmother, I'm not sure how old his grandmother was at the time. I don't know if she was retired or if she was still working or if she like was out flitting around like visiting friends or something like that. How do you murder like 16 dudes
At your grandma's house.
at your grandma's house and
she
she
doesn't
doesn't know about it?
Some weird shit.
I mean, and apparently she didn't know. I mean, yeah, he was down in the basement and shit, but I don't know.
He killed him there at the basement. At the fucking...
Yeah,
So
a lot of them he did,
He
yeah.
didn't just process the body there. He killed him there.
So yeah, sometimes.
That's some weird shit. Mm-hmm. Grandma must have been the one that just like sits up there and watches television, doesn't walk around.
Maybe that's what it was.
Can't hear real well.
Maybe that's what it was. I mean, I'm not blaming her or anything like that. I just think it's very weird to have somebody like murdering people in your house and you not know about it. Okay, so looks like we're about at the hour mark. So I guess we will pause here for a short break. Commercials, kitty videos, that type of stuff.
I made my drink already. This is all done through editing magic.
Editing magic. So yeah, we will be back in just a few minutes to talk some more about Jeffrey Dahmer because we still have a lot of victims to get through because he killed a lot of people, you guys. So we'll be back in just a couple minutes. You love true crime. I love true crime. And I've spent the last 3 years compiling a series of the most intriguing unsolved murders of the 20th century. It's called The Faceless Villain, and Volume 3 is available now. Featuring such fascinating cases as the Keddy murders, the Carrie Babies case, the Frog Boys, the Alcasar murders, and the Inokashira Park dismemberment incident, The Faceless Villain Volume 3 is an involving exploration of unsolved slayings spanning the years from 1980 to 1999. Pick up your copy in print or ebook formats on Amazon, or download the audiobook version from audible.com, and get ready for a chilling journey through modern crime history. All right, we're back, talking about yet another Wisconsin weirdo, Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah.
So, following the murder of Stephen Tuomi, it seems as though, I guess in a fucked up way, that, kind of the gloves came off after that point, because I guess that Jeffrey decided that he liked it, he could do it now, and it's like, so he just started, whether or not he had intended to kill Stephen Tuomi or not, at this point, he very much made the decision that he was going to basically start trolling for victims, specifically to kill them and do things with their bodies. You know what I mean? So, at this stage, this is kind of like where his MO kind of like came into play. So 2 months after he killed Stephen Tuomi, Jeffrey Dahmer comes across a 14-year-old prostitute named James Doxtator. Now, he offered this kid $50 to pose for naked pictures. So he lures the kid back to his house, has sex with the kid, and then he drugged him and strangled him. This is, again, in the cellar of his grandmother's house. He actually left... This is what's killing me, what I was talking about before, like how the grandmother didn't know this was going on. This 14-year-old kid's body was in the cellar for a week before he cut it up.
Damn. Maybe she wasn't real able. Maybe she couldn't get down into the cellar.
Either that or she was out a lot. I don't really know how you could...
How could you hide a body in the cellar at your grandma's house and then be able to sleep at night? I'd be like, man, she's going to find it.
That's what I mean. It's like, I don't know, like, did he hide it? Did he leave it laid in the middle of the floor? I mean, I guess he couldn't have left it in the middle of the floor.
No,
Because, a week is a long time. And it's like, I'm sure she came down there. But So he left it down there for a week. Then he cut it up, pretty much the same way he had done with his first victim. He kept the skull, like he kept the head, and then like he boiled the head and boiled the skull and like kept the skull for a little while, but then he ended up pulverizing it. The rest of the body parts he put in garbage bags and put out on the curb again.
Yeah.
And didn't get caught again.
So he must have been boiling the head at his grandmother's house in her fucking pots.
That's what I'm saying.
While she was there?
And I don't know, when she was like eating out of that shit.
Damn.
Ooh, Jeffrey, what are you making in there?
Yeah, that smells good.
I know, it's horrifying. It's like, I'm
Making
sure.
some hog's head cheese.
Yeah, is that what he said?
No,
Did he have like some fucking excuse?
Yeah.
God, it's like there's so many jokes about, because I was watching like a bunch of documentaries about, because I've heard some Jeffrey Dahmer jokes, but
because when you don't give a fuck, you can just do whatever you want.
I guess.
It's like a cloak of invisibility because you don't give a shit.
Yeah. I don't know. He
Weird.
he didn't really see, I mean, he seemed concerned about getting caught in the sense that, he was cutting up the bodies and like disposing of them because he didn't want them to be found. But then he didn't really seem that concerned about it because he's just leaving bodies laying around for like a fucking week before he did. I'll get around to that.
Maybe he secretly wanted to be caught and stopped.
I think he did, because even when they caught him, he was kind of like, he kind of fought him for a minute, but then once they figured out what
you
he
guys
did.
finally caught me, huh?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. And it's like, I think he said when they arrested him something like, I deserve to die for what I did, or something like that. So, March 24th, 1988, Jeffrey meets his next victim, who was a 22-year-old man named Richard Guerrero, and he met him outside a gay bar, which was called the Phoenix. Now, he also offered this guy money. I don't think he asked him to, like, pose for pictures or anything. He just said, hey, I'll give you $50 if you, like, come hang out with me, or, like, come keep me company or whatever. So, once he gets him back to his grandmother's house, he drugged him with sleeping pills and then strangled him with a leather strap, and then performed oral sex on the corpse.
Damn.
Left the body there for about 24 hours, then cut it up, and he did the same thing as he had done with the 14-year-old boy. He cut the body up, he put the body parts out on the curb, he kept the skull for a little while, and then for some reason pulverized it and scattered the bones.
Imagine he's blowing this dead dude, right? And the dude pops a boner. Wouldn't you shit? That dude, he'd freak out. No,
that's what I mean. It's like thinking about this kind of stuff. It's like,
what the fuck is wrong with this dude? Huh?
That's what I mean. And it's like, it's so weird because like when you watch, because there's all kind of interviews with him and stuff like, because like I said, he was very forthcoming about the shit that he did, and he knew it was bad. Like he knew it was wrong, but it's almost like he couldn't stop himself. But it's just like watching him, he just seems so normal. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Not really.
He seems kind of normal.
To me, he never seemed normal. To me, he seemed fucking creepy.
Yeah, but not as creepy as like some other ones. Yeah. Like on the scale of creepy, he seems like one of the less creepy ones.
To me, he seemed pretty fucking creepy.
I don't know. It's just fucking weird.
I could tell there was something wrong with him.
Whole situation. So now on this one, here was a guy that was one of the luckiest guys on earth. April 23rd, Jeffrey Dahmer lures another guy to the house using the same ruse. He gives him a cup of coffee that has a bunch of sedatives in it. And he's presumably planning to kill this guy. But then the grandmother comes partway down the stairs. I guess she had heard him come in or something like that. She said something like, hey, is that you? Are you home, Jeff? Or whatever. And Jeff tried to be like, yeah, it's just me. I'm down here all by myself. Not anybody with me. Nope, no siree. You know, kind of like that, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But apparently the grandmother saw the other person. I don't know if she saw him like his face or just saw that like another set of feet or something like that. But she saw that there was another person, that he had brought somebody home. So at this stage, Jeffrey was like, well, shit, I can't kill this one now because grandma knew that there was one in the house. But he had given him the drugs. So what he did was he waited until the drugs worked and like the guy went unconscious. And then I guess he took the guy to the hospital and like just left him there.
Weird.
I don't know if he just like left him outside or if he just went in there and said, hey, this guy like OD'd. I don't know who he is. Bye. And then like took off. I'm not really sure how that went down. But yeah, so that guy got away. I don't know what his name is, but yeah, that's like the luckiest dude ever. So September of 1988, finally, the grandmother finally tells Jeff, hey, how about you move out of the house because, one, you keep bringing all these rando dudes home in the middle of the night, and also, the basement really stinks.
Yeah.
as it would. Like, she didn't think, oh, dead body smell. I don't know what she fucking thought. You know what I'm saying?
Granny wasn't too with it.
I guess not.
He's bringing all these dudes over here and it stinks down here.
Yeah, it's like you'd think
put the
that you would put two and two
yeah,
together.
yeah.
Like, yes, you don't want to think that your grandson is a serial killer, but there comes a certain point where
something's going on.
You got to get on the clue bus.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So he's able to find a 1-bedroom apartment, and he moves in on September 25th. Now, the day after he moved into this apartment, he lures a 13-year-old boy to his house, and, by saying, hey, I'll give you money if you pose naked for photographs. And he drugged this kid and sexually fondled him.
Yeah.
He didn't kill him, though, because I guess he got caught. So he gets convicted of 2nd-degree sexual assault. And I love this, enticing a child for immoral purposes.
All right.
So, yeah. So he gets convicted of that, but they said that they weren't going to sentence him until later. You know what I mean? It was like and while they were doing that, like while there was a gap, they were just like letting him run around loose.
Yeah.
So he
told him to report back for sentencing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what he did.
Okay.
So he gets convicted, and then even like 2 months before his sentencing hearing, he murdered another person. Like, he was supposed to, like, in 2 months, he was supposed to go back for sentencing, but he murdered somebody else.
Yeah, he don't give a fuck at this point.
That's what I mean. He just really doesn't. And like you said, I think he's almost kind of, like, hoping he gets caught, like, that someone else will stop him, because apparently he's not successful at stopping himself from doing this shit. So the next person he killed was a 24-year-old man named Anthony Sears. He also met this man at a gay bar in March of 1989. He said that when he was at the bar that he wasn't trolling this particular time. However, he did a little bit of victim blaming, because he said, oh, well, this particular guy, like, came up to me at the end of the night and started talking to me and, like, hitting on me and stuff. So he figured, hey, might as well kill someone. I wasn't planning to, but here you are.
Now, is he into the black guys yet?
Yeah.
These are all black guys, a lot of them. Right?
Most of the, because the early victims were white.
Yeah.
Or I think the 14-year-old prostitute boy, he was Native American, I believe. And some of the later victims, like the younger kids, I think were Laotian. But yeah, most of his victims were African American. That was just...
He liked how they looked better, he said.
Yeah, he had a thing.
He liked their muscle
He had a
definition.
thing for black guys, yeah.
Like that muscle definition.
Yeah. So
he kept a whole bucket of dicks underneath his damn fucking bed.
Yeah.
Too, yeah.
He had all kinds of dicks, hands, feet.
Bucket of dicks.
Heads.
Okay.
It's just like, why?
Bucket of dicks. He had heads in that refrigerator. We're going to get to it.
Yeah. Bucket of dicks.
Bucket of dicks.
Somebody needs to, like, have a band called that.
Yeah.
So he does the same thing with Anthony Sears. He lures him back to his grandmother's house, even though I think that I think what happened, I think he moved to an apartment, and then he moved back to his grandmother's house, and then he moved out again. You know what I mean? Because during this time period, there was a lot of moving around going on. So he did the same thing. He drugged the guy and strangled him. Now, again, this is at his grandmother's house. So the next morning, he takes Sears' body, puts the body in his grandmother's bathtub, and cuts the head off, and then attempts to skin it, like take all the flesh off of it.
Where the fuck is Grandma during all this shit?
See, this is what I'm wondering. Where is Grandma?
Grandma must have been semi-senile.
Or like I said, or maybe she was just out all the time. Maybe she wasn't home.
Maybe.
You know what I mean? Like maybe
he was making time. She'd go and he's like, okay, now it's time.
Now it's time to do it.
Yeah,
that's what I mean.
like
So
that.
she's gonna go out to like some church function or some shit like that, because she was like a churchy lady. So maybe she was always
and
at
it
church
never
functions.
occurred to him. What if she comes home early?
Like I said, it really doesn't seem like he gave much of a crap.
Maybe she was just one of those ones that would just sit in a damn recliner right in front of the fucking TV and listen to Carson all fucking day or whatever.
Yeah.
And he could do whatever he wanted. She really wasn't paying attention.
I guess
And
not.
he just kind of had guts, you know. He had balls.
Suppose so.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's in the fucking
Stay in the
bathtub.
bathroom. He'd be in the bathtub for a couple of hours.
What are you doing in there?
Yeah, the bathtub for a couple
Flaying
of
a
hours.
corpse, grandmother.
Some weird shit.
It's fucked up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he takes all the skin off the body. He, pulverizes the bones. He threw the bones and most of the flesh away. However, because he found Anthony Sears particularly attractive, he was very attracted to him, this was the first victim where he decided he wanted to keep some of his body parts, like, forever. Like, some of the other victims, he had kept their skulls, like, for a little while, but then, like, later he had, like, crushed them up and threw them out. But he thought that Sears was so beautiful that he decided he wanted to keep parts of him, like, indefinitely. So he kept the guy's head and his genitals, and he kept them in acetone, and he put them in his locker at work.
Damn.
At the chocolate factory.
Damn.
Again.
So you could open up your locker and
ballsy.
there they are. Yeah. Some weird shit.
And you're fucking, that's like keeping like body parts in your fucking office drawer. Like you work at fucking, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like some fucking office. That's crazy. Like right next to the oatmeal
You gotta have
packets.
some fucking balls, man.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, and I'm not saying that's not a good way. It's not admirable. I'm just saying.
Either that or you're just dumb as shit.
Or he just didn't get, I don't think he gave a crap, honestly.
Yeah,
I really don't.
probably did. Because
So-
you gotta be dumb as shit. I mean, to think that, well, the management will never come down through here and fucking do a check.
And go, hey, look, a
And go-
severed
yeah,
head
yeah.
and a dick.
If I
In
had killed
someone's
some
locker.
dude and I had his head in the fucking jar back at the fucking workplace in the locker, I couldn't lay up in my bed fucking and go sleep. I'd be thinking, man, I bet you that janitor is fucking opening up.
That's what I mean. It would be on your mind just all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
All the time. See,
just-
this is why I would make a terrible
Yeah.
murderer, because I would just be like fucking. I would just
closing
worry
in on
about
me.
it all
They're-
the time.
They found that head and they're closing in on me at any minute. You just wait there in bed, you know.
Yeah, but
They're gonna
it doesn't
crash
really
into the
seem
back
to have
door.
bothered him, like, whatsoever.
I don't think he was too much of a thinker.
Probably not. So yeah, so he's keeping this poor guy's like head and genitals in his fucking work locker, and he left them in there for like a year. Like until he like moved to another apartment, and then he took them with him to the new apartment.
He never got caught for that. Had him up in there for a year.
No,
Damn.
there's a fucking head
Damn.
in a locker at a chocolate factory.
Fucking bizarre.
It's fucking crazy. So finally, Jeffrey goes to get sentenced for that sexual assault thing that he did on the 13-year-old kid. He got 5 years probation and 1 year in the House of Correction, and he got like a work release. He also, significantly, he had to register as a sex offender. Now, sadly, here's another thing where it seemed like they did the right thing. Yes, he should register as a sex offender because this was, you know, he had several offenses of this type, even though they hadn't caught him for the murders yet. But then later on, when, you know, he got caught for other shit, like, or, you know, when he gets famously caught with that, like, 14-year-old kid that's, like, wandering around naked in the street.
Yeah, the hole in his head.
Nobody checked if he was on the sex offender registry. Nobody checked. All you had to do was run his name and it would have come up.
Yeah, but it was harder back then. It wasn't as computerized, probably.
Fucking cops, man.
Yeah.
I'm really mad at the cops in this fucking case. I'm just saying. Particularly those two cops. So he gets paroled after a little while. And he temporarily, again, moved back to his grandmother's house. And then he moved into probably his most famous residence, which was Oxford Apartments.
Yeah.
Now, yeah, this was like, it was kind of a shitty neighborhood, but it was like real close to his work, and the apartment was like super cheap. I think it was like $300 a month, and that was like with all the utilities except the electricity.
Damn.
So I was like, yeah, shit, I'll live in a shitty neighborhood for
That shit was probably
$300.
roach infested.
I'd probably. Well, it's
Yeah.
like, well, what would he care? It's
Yeah.
like he's letting bodies rot in his fucking house. There's maggots on him and shit. So it's like, I'm sure a little roach isn't going to bother him. So he moves into his apartment, very famous apartment 213, and he takes the mummified head and genitals from the work locker and, you know, puts them in there. He had only lived in this new place for a week before he killed his sixth victim, Raymond Smith, who was a 32-year-old male prostitute. Again, he offered him $50 for sex. Same thing, gave him a drink that had a bunch of sleeping pills crushed up in it, and then he strangled him. Now, at this point, it seems like he wanted to not only keep the body parts, but he wanted to start documenting the victims and in various poses and in various stages of dismemberment. So the day after he killed this one victim, he went and bought a Polaroid camera and started taking a bunch of pictures. I was watching.
I've seen most of these photos.
So yeah, I have too.
Yeah.
And what ended up happening was I watched like a shit ton of like different documentaries, and I watched this one that they didn't warn you that they were going to show you like the crime scene photos, you know what I mean? So I'm just watching it and they're showing the regular photos that I've seen all the time, and I was like, holy shit, okay. Yeah. I wasn't expecting it.
I saw him back in the mid 90s after I'd gotten out of the army and first started fucking running on the internet. It must have been around 96 or so, 97. Some of you old timers back from the old interwebs. Some of you old bitches might remember the original internet. That bitch was fucking fire. They had a fucking scene called. They had a site called Gore Gallery.
Yeah.
.com, and you could go there, and they just had all kinds of crime scene photos, and it was all stuff that had been leaked, you know, and they had a whole Jeffrey Dahmer section. I saw the bucket of dicks. I saw the fucking dudes that got cut up in the bathtub and the shit that he was doing to the headless bodies and stuff. Yep. It was fucking bizarre.
Yeah, they're not
saw him
pleasant.
back in like 97, I guess.
Well, I'm going to tell you, like, I'm not going to put him in the video just because I don't want to get, this is probably be like slightly or limited.
He was trying to be artistic too, man.
Yeah, because I saw some of the pictures that he took that he posed like the headless bodies and stuff like that. It's pretty fucked up.
All bent backwards.
If you want to see them, you can go to Murderpedia, which is a good site because they usually they have like not just serial killers, they have like pretty much all murderers, and it's like everybody you can think of mostly, and they compile all different sources kind of like in one place. They'll have like the Wikipedia article, they'll have like other like book excerpts and stuff like that, and then they usually have photo galleries. So in the Jeffrey Dahmer one, there is an extensive photo gallery that says, you know, warning, graphic, these are all the crime scene photos. Like, but if you want to see them, you can click on them. It surprised me because I was just watching this video that seemed very normal, and then all of a sudden, pow, right there, like severed head, like headless body pose, like, and I was like, okay, thanks a lot.
I also saw a photograph of drawings that he was making of a damn altar that he was gonna build.
He was going to build an altar with a bunch
bones.
Of skulls and like skeletons on either side.
Looked like something Giger would make.
And he even had like, he wanted these kind of, it wasn't like a disco light, but it was kind of like these fucking blue lights, and it was crazy. Yeah, I saw the fucking thing. He wanted to like sit there like in a leather throne or something like that.
With all these fucking skulls and
like
bones.
Some BTK shit. It's like with his fucking supervillain layers and all that kind of crap.
Yeah.
It's like, this is crazy. So yeah, after he's taken pictures, like Polaroid pictures of Raymond Smith's body, and like I said, I saw one of them and it's pretty fucking gross because it was like he didn't have a head and he like kind of bent him backwards, like in this weird,
trying to be sexy with the dead body. And shit.
It was fucked up.
Yeah, weird.
So then he took a bunch of pictures, and then he takes the arms, the legs, and the pelvis, and he boils them in this stuff called Soilex, which I guess is supposed to like, it's some kind of acid, or it's supposed to like break down the flesh or something like that. So then he rinses the bones out in the sink and took the rest of the skeleton. He took the skull because he wanted to keep that, but the rest of it he like put it in this big vat that he had like full of acid, like to dissolve it. And he takes the skull and he like spray paints it. So he's like decorating the shit. So it was like, this is like Ed Gein shit, like building furniture out of the fucking... Yeah. It's like, what the hell's the matter with you? So he put it like in this... He had this filing cabinet with this stuff, and he was like keeping it next to the other guy's skull because he was saving him up, like you said, for the altar.
Yeah, to make an altar.
Yeah, so he was like trying to get a certain amount. So about a week later, he picked up another guy. However, this guy got away because what ended up happening was that I guess the drinks got switched. So Jeffrey Dahmer actually ended up drinking the shit with the drugs in it.
Dude was probably slick. Other guy.
That's what I'm saying.
Dude's probably like,
he probably pulled the princess bride. It's like, you might think the poison is in this cup. Yeah, yeah, he pulled one of those maybe. Right. Because that guy ended up like stealing a bunch of shit from like Jeffrey's. He stole like a bunch of cash and everything.
I'd have done the same thing too.
Good.
Like, bitch, you tried to fucking roofie me, I'm gonna fucking take your shit.
Yeah, he did. He took a bunch of stuff. He took like a watch, $300, and some of his clothes and stuff.
Make that bitch pay.
Yeah. Not surprisingly, Jeffrey Dahmer did not report this to the police, although he did tell his probation officer about it, that he had gotten robbed. So, June of 1990, his next victim was 27 years old. His name was Edward Smith. Again, he lured him to his apartment and then drugged and strangled him. Now, apparently at this stage, I guess that Jeffrey was not happy with how some of the acid and the bleach and stuff like that was making the skulls brittle. And he was trying to like experiment with other methods for maybe making them longer lasting and stuff like that. So this guy, like after he like rendered him down to a skeleton, he put the skeleton in the freezer for like a really long time because he wanted to see if it would like suck all the moisture out or something. I don't really know why. So
he didn't know why.
It didn't. Well, yeah, he was just trying different things out, like for whatever reason. It didn't work, in case you wondered. However, he was kind of mad about this because he wanted to dry the skull out because he was going to keep this skull too, and he put it in the oven and it blew up. So he was really upset because he ended up, and he even told cops like after he got caught, that he felt particularly bad about this murder just because all of like the body got ruined and he couldn't keep any of it.
Yeah. Did it all for nothing.
Yeah, that's essentially what he was thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fucked up. So then almost 3 months go by before his next one. This next one was a 22-year-old guy named Ernest Miller. Same thing, he offered him $50. This time, I don't know if he like approached him on the street with this, because this would seem kind of weird, but he's like, hey, I'll give you $50 if you let me listen to your heartbeat and listen to your stomach gurgling. Which,
don't buy it, dude. Don't buy it.
I mean, I know that some people have weird things, and it's like, you know what I mean? You know how sometimes people can like sell their used panties or like...
What do they call that? The AMSR.
Yeah.
Yeah, AMSR.
Or like, you know, those dudes that'll like give you $200 for like, hey, send me a video of you stepping on something in high heels or something like stepping on jelly and stuff. It's like, whatever. Yeah. Whatever floats your boat, man. Weird. But yeah, so he says he'll give him $50 if you let me like listen to your chest and everything. So then he gets the guy back to his apartment. He's apparently listening to his heart or whatever. And then he starts trying to like give him a blowjob. Yeah. And the guy's like, hey, you know, that'll be extra. Don't try to get a freebie. At which point Jeffrey drugged him.
Okay.
Now, because he'd only had 2 sleeping pills left. I guess he hadn't stocked up on his supply, so it didn't quite like knock him out. So he didn't strangle this victim. He actually cut his carotid artery, which was the same knife that he used to cut up the other victims. So this guy actually bled to death. He was not strangled. You know, and then he did the same thing again. He like posed the body, like took a bunch of Polaroid pictures, puts it in the bathtub and starts cutting it up. And he said that he cut off the head first, and then he was like talking to the head and like kissing the head and stuff like while he was cutting the rest of the body. Yeah. Like, hey, look what I'm doing to your body.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's like, fuck, I don't know. This is like crazy. So this guy, he takes like his arms, like his biceps, and some of the skin off his legs, like chunks of flesh off his legs. He takes his heart out, and then he puts them all in plastic bags and puts them in the fridge because he's going to eat them later.
Yeah.
I think this was the first cannibal thing.
Well, why waste it? He's hungry, right?
Yeah.
You get a free meal out of this shit.
Yeah, and well, his thing was... His idea was that it would be part of him. Right. The victims would be part of him forever.
His cells would be replenished by eating this, and fucking now he's part of him.
Yeah. So that's basically what
that almost goes back to some primal fucking warrior shit, eating people's hearts and their livers to get their fucking warrior essence, you know?
Yeah.
Except with this guy, it's all sexual and shit.
Yeah, and it's like...
You will be with me forever.
Yeah, he definitely did seem to have some kind of weird, like... He wanted a companion that would never leave. Yeah. And so if he had to, like, eat them or keep their head or whatever, then he was going to do that. Yeah. So, but I think this is the first guy that he actually, like, ate parts of him. I could be wrong about that. But yeah, so the rest of the body, he, like, boils it in the Soilex, and then he put the skeleton in the bleach. And he also, this was another skull where he, like, painted it. Like, he had the head and he, like, painted and put enamel on it and stuff. He was, like, experimenting with different, like, preservation techniques, like, to see what would last the longest. So then, 3 weeks later, he picks up another guy at 22.
This is just a killing spree.
That's what I mean. This is a lot of people.
Yeah.
He picks up another guy, a 22-year-old guy named David Thomas, and he picked him up at a mall. This guy, he just said, hey, want to come back to my place for drinks? He was apparently, like, pretty charming because he was able to, like, get people to come, you know, and most, even, like, a lot of the people, like, after they knew that he had done all of these horrible things, even all the, like, a lot of the psychologists and, you know, cops and stuff like that that interviewed him said that he seemed real affable. Like, he was real friendly, he seemed like a nice guy.
Yeah.
But, you know, he wasn't. So he says, hey, want to come back to my place for some drinks? He's like, hey, maybe if you want to pose for some photographs, I'll give you some money or whatever. So then he drugged the guy. Now, this guy, I guess he got him back to the place and he decided that he wasn't into him. Like, he wasn't attracted to him. But then he thought, well, I already knocked the guy out and, you know, gave him the sedatives. And if he wakes up, he's going to be mad. So I guess I better kill him.
Gotta kill him, right? Yeah.
So
makes sense. He's only being practical.
Yeah. But he didn't keep any of his body parts because he didn't find him attractive.
Didn't like him, right?
Even though it's weird because, like, I'm looking at pictures of him, I'm like, he's a perfectly good-looking dude, I guess. But you know what I mean?
Something about the guy, yeah.
Something about the guy he didn't like particularly.
Right.
So he did kill him just so he wouldn't, like, get upset, like, so he wouldn't wake up and get mad at him. But he didn't keep any of his body parts. Although he did take pictures of him, like, of himself, like, cutting the body up and everything like that. So then there was, like, kind of a gap of about 5 months. Although they do think during this time period that he did try on occasion to, like, lure people back to his apartment, but was apparently unsuccessful or decided to, you know, not do it, like, once he went through it or whatever. So he was still going to his parole officer at this time and apparently reported that he was feeling, like, really bummed out, really depressed, anxious, that he had been considering suicide, all this kind of stuff. But he didn't kill anybody during this time period. And then came February 1991. Jeffrey sees a 17-year-old guy named Curtis Straughter who was standing at a bus stop near Marquette University. Now, he pulled the same ruse. He said, hey, if you pose naked, I'll give you some money and also sex. So he did the same thing. He got the guy back to his place. He drugged him and strangled him with a leather strap and cut him up. And he kept the skull, the hands, and the genitals and photographed each stage of the dismembering. Because he just wanted to remember it, I guess. A little less than 2 months later, this was April 7th of 1991, he met a 19-year-old guy named Errol Lindsay, who was walking down the street. This guy was actually not gay. He didn't pick him up at a gay bar or anything like that. He was just a random guy that happened to be walking by, like running an errand or something. But he was able to lure this guy to his apartment, drugged him. And this is the first guy where he attempted to make a zombie, is what essentially he was doing. He would drill a hole in a dude's head, and then he would pour various things in there, usually like muriatic acid, sometimes boiling water, sometimes hydrochloric acid, because he thought in his addled brain that it would make... He didn't think it would kill them. He thought that it would make them completely subservient, like a zombie, like they would do whatever he said.
Yeah, well, he had done some, like, studies of anatomy.
Yeah.
He tried to figure out what areas of the brain controlled what. So he thought if he could destroy that area, he could make a person into basically a living zombie.
Yeah.
And a living sex doll.
Yeah.
It didn't work.
No.
Not at all.
Nope.
No.
And what ended up happening in this situation, I believe he injected hydrochloric acid into his brain after he drilled a hole in his head. And he did that, and then the guy woke up, and he said, I have a headache. And then he said, what time is it? And Jeffrey Dahmer, like, freaked out and drugged him again and then strangled him again.
Yeah.
So he cut that guy's head off and kept the skull also. And this guy, he took all the skin off and attempted to, like, preserve it. You know what I mean? Like, he put it in salt water, like, to dry it all out so he would keep it. But it didn't, like, last very long. Like, it started getting all yucky and brittle, so he ended up having to throw it out, which he was bummed out about. Now, as you will probably not be surprised to hear, but so 1991, the other residents of the building, 'cause it's an apartment building, y'all, like other people lived around there, and there were other apartment buildings around there, they started complaining to the building manager they're like, that apartment 213 like really smells bad, and you really have to see what's going on. And people also complained about noise. People said, well, we hear like a bunch of knocking around, and we heard someone running a chainsaw repeatedly in the middle of the night. Again, put 2 and 2 together, people. You hear a chainsaw in the middle of the night, you hear banging around,
Stinky.
and it stinks like dead bodies. I wonder what could be going on in there.
Yeah.
What the fuck else could that be? Come on. So the manager, to his credit, I guess, actually did go to Jeffrey Dahmer's apartment and be like, hey, what's the deal with your stinky ass apartment? And Jeffrey Dahmer said, oh, my freezer broke and all the food spoiled. And also, he had like a big tank of tropical fish. And he's like, oh, a bunch of my fish died. So that's probably what, you're just smelling all of that together.
Right.
And the manager apparently bought it. So Jeffrey said, yeah, I'll take care of it. I'll get it all cleaned up and everything like that. Sorry about that.
All right.
Jesus. Now, this right here is probably the most famous thing. And this is what pisses me off the most. So May 26, 1991. Jeffrey Dahmer comes across a 14-year-old boy, and I know I'm probably going to pronounce this poor kid's name wrong. He's Laotian. His name's Conorak Synthasimphone. Weirdly, this kid, and Jeffrey Dahmer didn't mean to do this or anything like that, this kid was the younger brother of a guy that Jeffrey had been arrested for molesting 3 years earlier.
Damn.
Like, he didn't realize that they were related. But, yeah, the first kid, he didn't kill that kid. He just, like, molested him, then he got arrested. But, yeah. So, he picks up this kid, who's 14, and, says to give him money for pose for photographs. Now, the kid is initially like, oh, man, I don't know. This doesn't sound, like, legit. But then he's like, well, okay, I guess I need the money or whatever. So, the kid poses for 2 pictures. Not completely naked. He still had underwear on and stuff. But then Jeffrey drugged him and then started performing oral sex on him. Now, he also drills a hole in the kid's skull and puts hydrochloric acid into the brain. Now, the kid is still kind of walking around, but he's,
Fucked
not
up.
right.
Yeah.
So Jeffrey, takes him into the bedroom. In the bedroom is still, a dead body, for his former victim is still in there, laying on the bed.
Damn.
Now, Jeffrey told the cops later, he's like, I'm pretty sure that the kid saw the dead body laying there, since it was just laying there, big as life. He's like, but, the kid was kind of messed up, so I guess he didn't really realize what was going on. So, yeah, this body had been there for, 3 days. So, and it was, all bloated and shit.
Mm.
Yeah. So, then the kid, goes unconscious, from all the drugs and the fucking hole in his head and whatnot. So then Jeffrey, he lays down next to the kid, because that was the thing. He just liked to lay down next to, unconscious people.
He didn't want any needy sexual shit.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Here's the weird thing. I remember reading about the guy a long time ago, and you didn't really point this out yet. Dahmer liked to get up in a booty, but he didn't like anybody getting up in his booty. It was too taxing for him. You know what I'm talking about? He was not a power bottom, I guess you could say. So this is kind of fueling his need to kill dudes.
Yeah.
Because he didn't want to have to satisfy him.
Yeah.
Which is some weird shit, if you ask me. You know what I mean?
Well, it is.
That's some real weird shit. If you're gay, you might as well just go ahead and be gay.
Yeah.
You know?
This guy was just messed up all around.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just messed up all around.
Yeah, it's weird.
So he lays next to this unconscious kid, and then he decides, oh, well, I'm out of booze, so I'm just going to leave the kid there. And then he goes down and, drinks at a bar and goes to, buy some more beer or whatever. And while he's out, the kid wakes up and wanders out of the apartment and, out into the street.
Yeah,
he's naked.
Yeah.
He has a hole in his head.
Yeah.
His ass is bleeding.
Yeah.
And he's completely, fucking disoriented.
You're right.
He's walking around out there. So these 3 women, from the neighborhood, they find him. And they're like, oh, my God, this poor kid.
Yeah.
They call 911. The kid couldn't speak English, I guess. Or couldn't speak enough English for them to, figure out what had happened. So, the 3 women are like, okay, it's okay. We called the cops and we stayed here. So Jeffrey Dahmer comes back, before, from the, liquor store or whatever, before the cops get there. And he starts trying to, like, lead the kid back to his apartment, saying, oh, this is my friend, everything's fine. And the women were like, yeah, no, I don't think so. The cops are coming. So the cops show up, these two fucking cops, and Jeffrey Dahmer, neat as you please, he just says, oh, this is my 19-year-old boyfriend. The kid was 14. Is my 19-year-old boyfriend. He's just drank too much. We had a big fight. And he gets like this when he's drunk. He just like wanders around outside and, you know, it's no big. It's fine. Nothing's going on. Now, the women are like, this is some bullshit right here. But the cops were like, oh, it's a domestic one. Those queers with their weirdness, we don't want to get involved in it. It seemed like they had that kind of attitude. Because like the women were like trying to argue, going, look, the kid, he's like bleeding and shit like that. And the cops apparently told the women to, quote unquote, butt out.
Yeah. Well, they were like, well, it's between gays.
That's what they thought. Would say, oh, it's a domestic dispute. You guys don't need to get involved. Even though the kid was clearly injured.
Right.
Clearly injured. So
It's weird shit.
Like I said, Jeffrey Dahmer, like I said, and I'm not saying this in an admiring way, but this is pretty fucking ballsy. He has a dead body in his apartment. Okay, and heads, buckets of dicks, everything. And he takes the cops, like, to prove that this is his 19-year-old lover, and this is all consensual. He takes the cops into his apartment and shows them the Polaroids that he took of the kid earlier. That looks like the kid is posing, like, because he got paid. He's like, yeah, see, look, I just took these, like, you know, just a few hours ago, and we just were hanging out, and he drank too much, and everything's fine. The cops noticed a bad smell. I think one of them even kind of peeked into the bedroom and stuff, but didn't really see anything because the body was like on the bed. I don't know if it was covered with a sheet or anything, but they said they did notice that it was kind of stinky in there. But again, they didn't put two and two together. These are like the most incompetent cops like in the history of cops.
I don't know. I think what it is that they just assumed that Dahmer was a motherfucker who gave a fuck.
Yeah, I don't know.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you would think that if you had all that going on inside your apartment, the last thing you'd do is bring cops to that damn apartment.
The first thing, you know what I thought of? I thought of the Telltale Heart.
Yeah.
Where he killed that old guy and then he cut him up and put him under the floorboards. And then he thought he was all cocky, so he invites the cops in there and he's like, I put the chairs right on top of where I buried the body because he thought he was like so slick and everything.
Cops were just fucking like, this is a stinky motherfucker, you know what I mean? All these gays and shit like that. Okay, it's between them. Let's get the fuck out of here.
That's basically what they said. And I think when they talked to them later, they actually did get suspended after this, but I think they were able to get their jobs back. They got fired for a little while, but then they got their jobs back, unfortunately, because it was like a huge outcry like after that. But I think one of the cops said that I don't think he even thought it smelled like dead bodies. He thought it just smelled like shit, which I'm like, shit and dead bodies do not smell the same.
Well, maybe he's thinking, well, they were doing each other up in a booty, and that's what's going to smell like.
Maybe that's what and his brain just went to that, and it interpreted.
His mind is like, you know what I mean? These gay dudes are always up in each other's booties and shit. It's going to smell bad in here. Nasty ass gays. That's what he's thinking.
That's kind of. I feel like that was kind of the attitude.
And then they're kind of disgusting. Like, man, let's get out of here.
Yeah, that's the vibe that I got. That they were just like, oh, these are weird gay people and they're doing their weird gay people thing.
It's not illegal. It's not illegal.
And we don't want anything to do with it.
That's probably what it was.
So he basically just said, yeah, just take care of that boy, and then they just took off.
Yeah.
Right? They didn't run a background check on Dahmer, which they would have seen that he was a registered sex offender had they checked that, but they did not. The cops took this kid back to the house, and guess what? Dahmer killed him.
Dahmer killed him.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the problem that the cops made right there. They should have fucking run a check on that dude to see who he was.
It would have taken 5 minutes.
Had they done that, then
that kid would still be alive.
Red flags would have gone up.
Yep.
And you could say, hold on, you could sit right here. I'm going to go into your house. I got to check something. You go in there and look, and you find that dead body, and you're like, motherfucker, freeze.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because, like I said, when they went in there later, there was shit. He didn't hide anything. There was shit everywhere. Yeah. There was like body parts in his fridge, like just sitting on his bedroom. Fucking their skulls just on his fucking dresser and shit.
Yeah.
He had
that
Polaroids
smell,
laying
he's
around.
Talking about that shit smell. If you've ever hunted deer, dressing deer and cleaning deer, it smells like deer shit. Deer shit just smells like grass and stuff. You know what I mean? It doesn't smell all that bad. The guts smell kind of fucking bad, but it's just the gases, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Fucking it comes out of the guts when you're removing the internal organs. I can imagine how much worse it smells, coming out of a human being.
Yeah.
You talk about farts. Worse.
Well,
worse.
Yeah, I would think so.
Much worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the smell. So that's what he was smelling. He was smelling all that dismemberment and disemboweling.
Yeah.
That's what he was smelling.
Because, yeah, it's like, I can't imagine. You know
the
what
heaviest part is those guts, really.
Yeah.
Once the guts are out of any body, a deer or anything like that, it's light.
Yeah.
It's not as heavy as it was. Because, you know, when
I guess a lot of that he threw in that big acid vat that he had.
And that's a fucking piss poor way of doing it.
Well,
you could tell the dude had no fucking background in fieldcraft. You know, I mean, once the guts are out, most of the smell's gone of any animal.
Yeah.
And you put that in a plastic bag. You do the same thing hunters do. You put it in a plastic bag and you can dump it out in an area where there are animals, and the animals come and get it. They eat it.
Well, yeah.
It won't be there for fucking 4 hours. If you fucking put that shit out at sundown, when sun up, it'll all be gone.
Yeah. Well, yeah, free food.
Nature does its fucking deal.
Yeah.
All right. So, but you know, he doesn't want to drive that far out of town, I guess.
Well, yeah, he's kind of in the middle of a city. I mean,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And he's in an apartment, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
He's just like, some of this stuff, I don't know if he did this more than once, but I know in at least one case that he dissolved a lot of the shit in acid and then flushed it down the toilet.
Once the guts are out, man, decomposition slows down a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, when you field dress in the field deer, so they don't spoil. You know, they don't spoil. You know, you're going to take them back earlier that day, but, you know what I mean, fucking, they're not going to spoil. You don't want to leave something there because there's so much bacteria.
Yeah.
In the guts and all those, you know what I mean? It rots quickly. Disemboweled, it's a lot better. So this guy, you know, not only is he's a shitbag and he's a fucking murderer, he's also unsanitary.
That's what I was just saying. I'm like, how dirty were this dude's like fingernails?
Yeah, he's very unsanitary. I mean,
because he's cutting up human bodies like in his fucking bathtub, and you know he's not like fucking washing his hands.
No, and why would you fucking put that in a?
And he worked in a chocolate factory. He was like his germy ass fucking fingers all over people's chocolate bars.
Why would you put that in an acid bath? That would smell even worse.
I guess it didn't, but it didn't seem to bother him. I guess
you just put all that shit in a bathtub, you rinse it all off, and then you cube that up with a damn butcher knife on a cutting fucking board right there in the bathroom, and make little giblets out of it. You could probably slowly flush it all down the toilet if it was small enough. I don't think you'd have a problem.
It'd have to be pretty small. Otherwise, otherwise you get in like a fucking Nilsson situation.
About, you know what I mean? I'm a cook too.
Yeah.
Sit there and put that shit up on the fucking cutting board. You know, do a nice little Julianne on that shit. You know what I'm talking about?
Well, if he would have just eaten the whole bodies, he might have got away with it because it wouldn't have been.
The lungs and shit, there's nothing. It's terrible. Lungs and guts, I don't like any of that shit. Fucking stomachs, I don't like any of that shit. It fucking stinks to cook it and everything. The only thing in a human, I'm thinking only thing in a human that I would find edible. You know what I mean? And I don't eat humans, but I'm just saying, you know.
Just if you happen to.
Would be a heart, and a heart isn't that big. But I love all kinds of animal hearts, like beef hearts, chicken hearts. I don't like those internal organs, you know.
Yeah,
I may be white. I may be white, but I'm not British. Those British people can fucking eat kidneys and fucking
they eat everything.
God, get that shit away from me.
Everything but the squeal.
Even in Mississippi, the poorest state in the Union. Okay, dollar for dollar, Mississippi's the poorest state in the Union. They don't eat that shit. That's called eating low on the hog.
Yeah,
very low.
Yeah, nobody wants that shit.
Most internal organs are thrown away.
Yeah.
Except a heart, maybe a liver. But you have to know what to do with that.
Don't they make pet food out of some of it?
Yeah, it comes out of the slaughterhouses.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff you can do with all that.
Yeah.
People think that all goes into potted meat and stuff. Nah, not really. You know
No, it doesn't.
Most of that stuff actually goes into dog food.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. They put it in pet food. And it has other applications.
Other applications, yeah.
But yeah, so this poor kid, like I said, the cops are just like, yeah, you guys just keep on doing what you're doing. Obviously, nothing nefarious is going on at all. So this poor 14-year-old kid gets put back in the apartment, and Dahmer injects him in the head again with hydrochloric acid, and this time it kills him. Dahmer called in sick to work the next day just so he could have the whole day to dismember the victim, because that was like a big day for him.
Right.
But the thing is, he kept doing that, and eventually he got suspended, and then he got fired because he kept killing people and calling it as like, hey,
what about the
I'm
head?
Really sick today.
The head he brought the head in from the locker already.
Yeah, he had that like
read
in like a filing cabinet.
Okay, so he brought that home already.
Yeah, it's not at his job anymore. It was there. It was there for like a year, I think, or like almost a year in his work locker.
Crazy.
And then when he moved to this apartment, he brought it, and then he kept it in like a file drawer. So June 30th, Dahmer goes to Chicago and runs into a 20-year-old guy named Matt Turner at the bus station. He says, "Hey, want to come back to Milwaukee, and I'll give you all this money for a photo shoot and shit like that." So Matt says, "Okay." So again, he drugs the guy, strangles him, and cut him up. And he had his head and internal organs. He put them in plastic bags and put them in the freezer. This guy was actually never reported missing, so I don't know if he just didn't have family that was looking for him or if he was an orphan or whatever. 5 days after that, he lures yet another guy, 23-year-old Jeremiah Weinberger, from a bar, and again drugged him, injected boiling water into his brain, and it put him in a coma, and he died 2 days later. A few days after that, July 15th. The last one was July 5th, so this was 10 days later.
He probably thought it was working for that coma. He's like, it worked.
Hey, yeah. Oh.
Yeah, it worked, yeah.
All right.
How much on bet? He's going to feed the kid intravenously. How much on bet?
Yeah.
And like put him in diapers when he wasn't screwing him.
Yeah, that's like...
You know what I'm talking about? And then clean him up before he'd have sex with him. And that's probably what he had planned.
Probably.
Living sex doll.
Yeah. Why didn't you just buy a fucking sex doll?
They didn't have good ones back then.
This is the 90s. Well, I mean, yeah, but
then.
you know, nowadays you can buy one that's almost like real.
Yeah, the first real good sex doll I ever saw was on the Howard Stern show. It was called That Real Doll.
Yeah.
And they were several $1,000s back then.
They're very expensive.
And that must have been, what, 97?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, those
fucking
are...
broke-ass Dahmer couldn't afford some shit
They're
like
a little uncanny valley, but they are, you know, they are a lot better than those ones that are just like this inflatable.
All that shit looks like a corpse to me.
They do. That's what I mean. They're really
like that.
They're creepy looking.
If I was gonna have something like that, I'd want it to look like a cartoon characters in bright colors. Look like
I think it's better to make it look like not
like a goddamn fucking. You know what I'm talking about? Something that's entertaining.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like a human.
Like a robot chick.
Like a robot chick. Yeah.
Something like that.
She lights up.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
Well, yeah, because if you can never get it exactly looking like a real
never gonna get it right, so you might as well just go with the goddamn...
So just go the total opposite direction.
Go with the opposite direction.
Make it look like Betty Boop or something.
Like one of those robot chicks off of Sergeant Pepper's. Remember that fucking movie?
Yeah.
Like that. Fucking shiny black fucking
I was just
robot
reading
chicks.
something about that today.
Just something like that.
I unabashedly love that movie. I don't care how bad it is.
So it's like the world's longest music video.
It was rad. I love it.
With the Bee Gees.
I want to see it again, actually. I saw it a million times when I was growing up. I know it's terrible, but I still love it. So July 15th, he finds his next victim, who is 24-year-old Oliver Lacey. Asked him to pose nude for photographs. And they have sex, and then he drugged him. Now, this one, he's trying out more things. He's like, I wanted to keep him alive for longer. So he tried to knock him out with chloroform. And again, he calls in sick to work because he's like, oh, I want to spend all day with this guy. Like, you know, just unconscious. So he can do things to him just while he's unconscious and not dead. So work says, yeah, sure, you can have a sick day, but then they suspended him.
Right. They were sick of his shit.
Yeah, so he kept him, like, unconscious for a day or two, and then he strangled him, had sex with the dead body, then cut it up. He put his head and heart in the fridge and skeleton in the freezer again. 4 days later, he got fired from his job.
He didn't care. He had all those body parts. All that
Probably not. He's like,
all
look,
that food. This shit's working.
He's got all this fun to have in his own apartment. You know, this is so messed up.
Like an asshole.
Yeah. So that's at this point. I mean, he's killing somebody like every few days.
Yeah.
So like he finds out he gets fired. Then he goes and finds another victim, a 25-year-old guy named Joseph Bredehoft. He strangled that guy. He left the guy on the bed, like he put like a couple of sheets over him. And he left the body just laying there. I'm assuming he was sleeping next to it. I mean, I think. So he leaves the body there for 2 days. He moves the sheets, and then the head has maggots all over it. Ugh. And he's like, well, shit, I wanted to keep that. So he actually like cuts the head off, and then he goes like cleans it and puts it in the fridge. Mm. And then like he kept the torso as well, and like some of the other body parts, and like fucking he's keeping all the shit in the freezer and like keeping all the shit in the house. So now, right here is where his undoing started to happen.
Yeah, the motherfucker's life's spinning out of control. He can't hold a job.
Yeah. And it's just, like I said, and the killings are just like only like a week or even less than a week apart at this stage. So he was just going fucking off
wild.
on it. Yeah. So July 22nd, 1991. So Jeffrey goes up to 3 guys and gives them the whole hey, pose for nude photograph spiel. Now, only one of them takes him up on it. Now, this is a guy named Tracy Edwards, who was 32. So he's like, yeah, I'll come with you, and like we'll have some drinks and hang out and take pictures or whatever. Now, as soon as Tracy walks into the apartment, he's like, it smells really fucked up in here.
Yeah.
And he noticed that there was like a bunch of containers of hydrochloric acid on the floor, and he's like, Dude wasn't stupid. That's a little suspicious. Yeah. You know what I mean?
So he's underestimating his victims. He's thinking they're all fucking dumb.
Yeah. So he's kind of like, so what's with the hydrochloric acid there, Jeffy? And he's like, oh, well, I just use it to like clean bricks or clean masonry or something like that. And Tracy's like,
Yeah, right.
All right. So they're talking and stuff. And Jeff's like, hey, why don't you turn around and look at my fish or whatever? And he's like, what? You got fish or whatever? And then he put handcuffs on him. And so, but then he was like he got handcuffs on one like hand, but then he was trying to like cuff both of his hands together, and he couldn't do it. So then he's like, well, come in the bedroom and pose for pictures. So Tracy's like, okay, fine. And he goes in there and he sees like a bunch of, he noticed he's got like a bunch of like pictures of naked dudes on the wall or whatever. He notices that he's watching Exorcist 3, which it turned out was one of his favorite movies. Yeah, we reviewed that not too long ago.
Good movie.
It is a good movie, yeah. But Jeffrey Dahmer's favorite movie. That and Return of the Jedi. They said he would watch like scenes from that before he would go out trolling for whatever reason.
He's trying to get one with the Force.
He related to Brad Dourif's character in Exorcist 3, the possessed guy, I guess, the demon or whatever. He related to that guy. So Tracy also noticed the 57-gallon drum in the corner, and that's where the smell was coming from.
Yeah.
So at this point, Jeff is like, he pulls a knife out and he threatens him with it. And he says, look, I'm going to take nude pictures of you, whether you like it or not. Tracy like tries to be like, okay, just chill out, dude. I'm not going anywhere. And he starts like kind of taking his shirt off. He's like, it's all fine. Everybody just needs to calm down and shit like that. So then he's kind of like trying to placate him, he's just kind of like, I'll stay here. I'll hang out with you. It's fine. And so then Tracy said later that Jeff like put a knife up to his chest and then said, I'm going to eat your heart or something like that, he says to him. So Tracy is like, okay, I really have to like just calm this dude down, and then I'm just going to jump out the fucking window like when he's not looking. So he goes to the bathroom, and then he's like, hey, let's just go back out to the living room. It's cooler out there. We'll just sit and drink a beer and everything will be fine. So they go out there, and so Tracy is like watching Jeffrey to see, like, make sure that he's not like looking at him. And apparently he sees that he kind of like spaced out for a second. He's like, oh, hey, I got to go to the bathroom again. And when he got up, he popped Jeffrey in the face, like he punched him in the face, and then ran the fuck out of the apartment. So he actually he got out. So he runs down the street. This is like 11:30 at night. He runs down the street. He finds 2 cops. And, they see the handcuff, and he's like, I was just in this freak's apartment, and he put this fucking handcuff on me, and there's all kind of like weird shit in there. So the cops like try to remove it, but the key they have like doesn't fit it. So they're like, well, why don't you take us back to where this quote unquote freak lives? So Tracy takes them back to the apartment. Now I should note before we kind of get into this that Tracy Edwards, this poor guy, he went through this horrible ordeal. And apparently he was never right again after this. Like he had like a lot of, he was homeless and he had a lot of drug problems and stuff. In 2011, he was arrested for murder because him and another guy who was also homeless, they got in a fight with a third guy, a friend of theirs, another homeless guy, and they threw him off a bridge and drowned him. So yeah, he only got sentenced to 18 months though, because I guess it was like, it was like 2nd-degree murder, and the other guy was there too. And they hadn't really,
well, look at this. You're fighting with a guy, you throw him off a bridge. That doesn't necessarily mean you're trying to kill him.
Yeah, and
We
that's
don't
what they
know-
said,
we
because
don't
I
know,
think
yeah.
either him or the other guy like actually did try to go in there and like get him out because
Yeah.
they didn't know that he couldn't swim and
You
shit.
don't know how far it was. It might have not been far. It might have been a 12-foot drop
Yeah.
in 6 foot of water. If a dude can't fucking drown, he's fucking drowned. They're gonna jump. There you go.
Yeah.
That's not murder. That's why you're going to get 18.
Yeah, so he got 18 months. That was
Yeah.
in 2012. I don't know what happened to him after that, but like I said, he didn't
an
do
accident.
he didn't do so well after escaping from Jeffrey Dahmer. I'm just
Well,
saying.
he probably wasn't doing well before that.
Probably not. No, because I think
But
he
he
was
did
he was
escape.
working as a prostitute. Well, yeah, he didn't
but
get fucking
did-
murdered.
But he did escape. So.
Just, you got to have that. So he takes the cops back to the apartment. Now, Jeffrey Dahmer, like I said, he does not seem to care at all. He invites all of the cops and the guy back into the apartment, and he's like, yeah, I've got the keys to the handcuffs. He's like, yeah, I put the handcuffs on there, although he didn't say why. He said that at this point, like, Tracy told him, yeah, he also pulled a knife on me and said he was going to eat my heart or whatever. And Jeffrey was like, yeah, whatever. He didn't, like, say anything about that. And then he's like, I have the key to those. They're in my bedroom drawer, like in the dresser or whatever. So he started to go in there and get the key, but then the cop was like, nah, we're going to go in there and get it. So one of the cops goes in the bedroom to get the key and sees that there's like a big ass knife like underneath the bed. And he's like, oh, well, that must be the knife that he, brandished at Tracy Edwards. He also saw an open dresser drawer that had a whole bunch of Polaroids in it. So he's like, wonder what these could be
Oh,
of.
I bet you some of those are dead bodies.
They were.
Yeah.
74 Polaroids, most of them showing bodies in various stages of dismemberment.
Bet you that cop shit his fucking pants.
Yeah.
Like,
So
what the
basically, he's
fuck?
looking at the pictures going, holy fucking shit, so
Yeah.
much paperwork. But yeah, so he walks out to the other cop and he shows them to him and he's like, I think these are real.
Yeah.
So Jeffrey sees that they have his pictures and then he started like trying to fight the cops. But there were two of them and they overpowered him, even though he's a fairly large dude, but so they cuffed him and got a second squad car to come for backup. Then one of the cops goes into the kitchen and opens the refrigerator and they find a severed head on the
Damn.
bottom shelf.
Damn. Next to the cake.
Probably. Fucking hell. Yeah, and both of the cops said that when they like had Jeffrey on the ground and they had him like all cuffed and everything, that he said, for what I did, I should be dead.
Right.
That's what he said. So they do a search of the apartment. They end up finding 4 severed heads in the kitchen, 7 skulls, most of which had been bleached, a few of which had been painted or decorated. They also found a bunch of blood drippings in a tray in the bottom of the refrigerator. 2 human hearts, part of arm muscle.
Was he eating those hearts?
I think he was, or he was eating like some of the other flesh. I know for sure,
Yeah.
because they were like in plastic bags in the
Tell
fridge.
you
like,
guys
he
have
was-
never had heart. Go down and get some down. No,
not human heart.
I love chicken hearts salted. Salted and fucking barbecued. Fucking awesome. Not with sauce, just over fucking open fire, man. Like churrascaria style, Brazilian style. Fucking fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah, same thing with fucking beef heart. Man, it's good.
I'm not a fan.
It's the only internal organ I really kind of like. I can stand liver if it's done right.
I don't mind
Fried.
it if it's mixing, like when you
Fried.
make like giblet gravy and
Giblet's
stuff
good.
like that. I would prefer it without liver in it, just because it has that strong taste. But I can still eat it. It doesn't really.
It's
bother me
good
all that
breaded and
much.
fried with the right stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, my
If it's-
grandma
If it's
used to
thin
eat that.
slice, it's good.
Yeah.
It's good.
Is it fucked up that we're talking about like recipes and shit on a
Yeah.
show about Jeffrey Dahmer?
Well, he was eating that shit.
He was, yeah.
With a human, you know what I mean? They say human tastes like pork, so it's probably
Not
kind
a
of...
pig.
Yeah, it's probably... the heart and the liver would probably taste kind of like... It probably tastes like beef heart and beef liver, really, because I don't think you eat pork heart and pork liver. Eating pork internal organs, I think, is kind of risky. Although they do eat that menudo, which is
Yeah.
pork stomach,
Yeah,
and
I know.
pork guts. I wouldn't do it, man. What pigs eat? I mean, a normal farm pig today. I mean, you got for my Muslim brothers out there. Let me tell you something. The pig that Muhammad was talking about does not exist anymore. They're not in sties. They're in fucking on concrete. They got water. When a pig gets hot, it'll just fucking shit and piss on the ground and try to make a mud hole to get into to cool off because they can't sweat.
Yeah.
But that's not how they are on farms. They're more like boars. You know what I mean? They have water to go into. They're clean. And they're being fed just corn and, pieces of chicken and other stuff that came out of the farm that they're not going to eat. So they're not eating the same crappy shit. And what is it? Trichinosis has been totally eliminated from the American pork population. You can eat raw pork here. It's safe. It's been wiped out.
Yeah, because even even we've seen on, I think it was Gordon Ramsay.
Gordon Ramsay said that, yeah. So
where you can eat pork, it's it's not raw, but it's
rare. You can eat it rare.
Yeah, you can eat it rare.
Now you can. You couldn't back in my grandparents' days.
No, and that's, I think that's where a lot of the shit carried over from. It's it wasn't safe to eat back then.
My grandmother would Mississippi woman would overcook pork.
Yeah, cook the shit out of it.
So much that pork was fucking terrible.
Yeah, it was
that's because that's how they learned how to cook pork, because it was dangerous back then.
Yeah, because you had to cook the shit out of it to make sure that there weren't any fucking parasites.
The parasite is trichinosis.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Yeah, trichinosis.
Well, that's what it causes it, yeah.
Yeah, trichinosis. And that's been totally eliminated from American pork, pigs. It's not around anymore.
Yeah.
You can eat that bitch medium rare. It's nice. If you know how to cook it.
Everything, like I said, and I mean, a steak, you just run a match under that and I'll fucking eat it.
That's relatively safe, though.
Yeah.
That's always been safe.
Yeah.
I fucking love beef.
I've eaten rare meat my whole entire life.
Yeah.
And I never got anything from it.
Yeah. A lot of people can't stand it.
That's weird to me.
The Chinese overcook that shit. They think...
it's when it's overdone, it's just so yucky. I can see how people, would want it medium rare or something like that. I like rare. You know what I mean?
A lot of black dudes I knew, man, they were like, fucking, we know how y'all are. I want that shit well done. You know what I mean?
I can't eat it well done. It's just so dry.
And no, I'm gonna tell you something, man.
And it doesn't have any flavor. It's it leaches all the flavor.
Rare and medium rare, it is cooked. It's just not. Yeah. It's just not brown. It's not cooked to it's brown. It's not raw. It's cooked.
Yeah.
But it's still pink, and you get some of that natural au jus, that natural fucking juices come out of there. That's fucking beautiful. That's blood. Don't worry about it. It's cooked.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
I like it red in the middle.
Yeah, it's good.
I even like burgers like that.
Make me hungry.
I know. Sorry.
No, right.
And like I said, it's really fucked up.
We're talking about Jeffrey Dahmer.
We're the Jeffrey Dahmer show. We're talking about fucking rare meat and shit.
Dahmer was unsanitary. He didn't know how to dress anything, so he couldn't butcher. He had fucking zero knife skills for, He didn't know how to handle fucking food. I wouldn't eat behind that motherfucker. Not at all.
Well, yeah.
Especially not because he's dealing with human bodies. I don't understand how he ate that.
I don't know.
I don't understand how he ate that. And not, you know what I mean? That's fucking filthy the way he's handling those bodies.
Yeah, I'm not really sure how he.
You could give me a deer, and I will turn that into beautiful food just that you could wrap and sell at the damn grocery store and get all kinds of. I can render a deer down into that within about an hour, inside a house, and not leave a drop of blood and no smell. So I don't know what this fucker was doing.
Well, like I said, he's probably not thinking about it because he's
dirty.
A serial killer.
Yeah, dirty motherfucker. Yeah.
So they found all this shit in his fucking house. Also, they found an entire torso in his freezer, a bag of human organs, and also little pieces of skin that was stuck to the ice on the bottom, which is nice.
Yeah.
They also found 2 entire skeletons, which he was gonna use for his altar that he was planning. A couple severed hands. I saw a picture of that. It's pretty special.
And what's up with this chainsaw action? He's using a chainsaw to cut him up.
Sometimes.
Like I said, I could take an animal the size of a cow and with a fucking regular knife, you know what I mean? A 6-inch knife, turn that into a bunch of steaks. What the hell do you need a chainsaw for?
I don't know.
This dude didn't have any fucking skills.
Well, like I said, he's not worried about it because he's a serial killer.
Paleolithic ancient man used to take just fucking obsidian blades, pieces of black volcanic glass, sharp as fuck, just the size of a damn quarter, and fucking they could take a whole elephant and turn that into food. Do you know what I mean? Just 4 or 5 guys with little sharp pieces of glass. You don't need chainsaws.
Yeah. Well,
they just make a mess.
Maybe he liked chainsaws.
Yeah.
Maybe he was like
some kind of sexual fetish.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So they found some preserved penises, as we said, mummified scalp.
Like a bag of dicks, but in a bucket of dicks.
Bucket of dicks. And the 57-gallon drum had 3 dismembered torsos, which were dissolving in the acid. As I mentioned, they also found 74 Polaroid pictures of bodies in various stages of dismemberment. So they arrest him, and like I said, he immediately spills his guts. Forgive the pun. They interviewed him for 60 hours, and he's like, yeah, I killed 16 dudes. Oh, and by the way, I also killed another guy, like back in Ohio, back in 1978, Stephen Hicks was his first victim. So they actually did end up going back to Ohio and like checking that old house, and they didn't find the body because he had gotten rid of most of it, but they did find enough bone fragments to be able to identify him as Stephen Hicks. So, as I said, he was completely forthcoming. He's like, yeah, I had sex with the dead bodies. Yeah, I cut them up. Yeah, I ate most of them. He didn't care. He just like fucking told them. Damn. He said that when they interviewed him, one of his quotes was, because they said, the past 2 months, like before he got caught, that he got, quote unquote, completely swept along in his compulsions. He said, it was an incessant and never-ending desire to be with someone at whatever cost. Someone good-looking, really nice-looking. It just filled my thoughts all day long. And then he told them about the altar that he was planning on making. He had made like a little sketch of it with like a little line of skulls. It's a shitty drawing because he couldn't draw, but like it was like all these little skulls. And then he was going to have a whole skeleton on either side, and it was going to be black, like a black thing over like tablecloth over the table, and then it was going to have like a black leather throne type thing with like some fucking blue lights and shit up there. He had like the whole thing planned out, man.
Yeah.
Like I said. Yeah, it's like fucking crazy. So he gets 1991, July 25th, he got charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and then got charged with a further 11 murders. And again, they had gone to Ohio to the house where he had previously lived, and they found bone fragments, enough to identify his first victim. So they did not charge him with the attempted murder that he got caught for, like Tracy Edwards. And they didn't charge him with the murder of Stephen Tuomi because since he claimed that he didn't remember it and there was no physical evidence remaining, they thought that they only wanted to go with the cases that they had evidence of, that they found the bodies in his house and he remembered doing it and he confessed to it and everything like that. So like I said, he confessed to everything. He just like pled guilty. He actually ended up pleading guilty but insane. And that's kind of because they find a bucket of dicks and severed heads and shit like that in your house.
But you might win that case.
Pretty much, that's the only defense you have. And you confessed also. Yeah. Yes, I did this. Yes, I had sex with dead bodies. Yes, I cut
shit.
Right. Yeah. So that's kind of like the only angle you can come at it from, that he was insane. However, he was analyzed by several psychologists, psychiatrists, a lot of experts and stuff like that, who said that while he had obviously some severe mental problems, some severe paraphilias, although some of them argued that maybe it wasn't necrophilia because he was working so hard to create a zombie that maybe he wanted a living, victim, but he was just using the dead ones because he couldn't get the living thing that he wanted. So it's like it wasn't true necrophilia,
it was a substitute for it.
It was like a substitute. So some of them did argue that he wasn't a true necrophile in the sense that he was just kind of using that as a stopgap until he could figure out how to make like essentially a living sex doll. So they also pointed out too that they're like, one, he did make an effort to not get caught, like, by pulverizing bones and like trying to get rid of the bodies, putting them out in the trash and stuff like that, trying to dissolve them. Also, they pointed out that the fact that he would get drunk before he did it, like to calm himself down or to like psych himself up for it. They're like, also, he was clearly planning the shit. So it came across that they're like, obviously he has a lot of mental problems. However, he did know what he was doing was wrong, therefore you can't get an insanity fix. That's pretty much the only, as far as I know, that's federal law, right? That's the only way you can get insanity, is if you genuinely did not know what you were doing was wrong.
Yeah.
And they determined that even though he was very, very messed up, that he did know he was doing something bad. Yeah. You know what I mean?
It's on the jury, but...
Yeah. So the trial was about 2 weeks, lasted about 2 weeks. Now, they did rule him sane, like I said, because he did seem to know right from wrong, even though he was suffering from various mental disorders, obsessive compulsive,
Wait a minute, that's right.
sadistic,
They have to do a ruling first.
Yes.
So it's not really on the jury.
Yeah, not yet.
Yeah, right.
So he got the first 2 counts of murder. He got life imprisonment plus 10 years. The remaining 13 counts, he got mandatory sentence of life imprisonment plus 70 years. Wisconsin at the time did not have the death penalty, so he didn't get that. He actually, I think they also extradited him to Ohio briefly to stand trial for the Stephen Hicks murder. That was his first victim, but that was just a formality. Like, he had already pled guilty to it and shit like that. So they just went him out there, and it took like 45 minutes, and then they just brought him back. So he got 16 life sentences, essentially. So they sent him to the Columbia Correctional Institution. For a year, he was actually placed in solitary confinement for his own safety because they thought that the other inmates would fuck him up, which turned out to be pretty accurate. So then he got transferred to another unit, and he was given like a work detail. Like, he would clean like the toilets, like for 2 hours a day or whatever, like the, where all the toilet block was. He also supposedly became a born-again Christian, like a lot of them do. And apparently, I guess his dad started sending him, like, creationist books. I'm like, oh boy, that's really going to help. Yeah. But yeah, so he got all into the Bible.
No, that might help a motherfucker to believe in something that much.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's all just made instantly.
Yeah. It's crazy. So yeah, so he got all into religion and was, like, doing shit with the, the prison chaplain and whatever. Now, in July of 1994, there was another inmate named Osvaldo DeRuthi, and he tried to kill Dahmer. Like, he had a razor, like, stuck into a toothbrush, like a shiv, and he tried to slash his throat. However, he was unsuccessful. Jeffrey Dahmer was actually not injured.
Yeah, there was a big competition to kill Jeff.
There was, yeah. And like I said, they knew that, and that's why they put him in solitary confinement for a year. But after that, they had to put him in general pop, so you know what I mean? Now, it's weird because his family, and like I said, his dad seemed like a pretty okay dude. Him and the stepmom and his biological mom, they didn't condone what he did. They said because that shit was fucked up. But they still came and visited him, and they said they still loved him, and everything like that. So they came and visited him all the time. Like, even though what he did was fucked up. And his mom said that she talked to him on the phone a lot and that he was just really, even with the stabbing thing, it's like he didn't fight, he didn't do anything. He just would say stuff like, I don't really care what happens to me. Like, he thought he deserved to die for what he did, which, yeah.
He did.
But he seemed to know that, and it didn't bother him that, like, other people were, like, attacking him and stuff. It didn't bother him. So, famously, the morning of November 28th, 1994, he leaves his cell to go on his work detail. He was with 2 other inmates named Jesse Anderson and Christopher Scarver. Now, these 3 were left unsupervised in the prison gym showers for about 20 minutes. About 8:10 a.m., they found Jeffrey Dahmer on the floor of the gym bathroom, suffering from head and facial wounds. Someone had bludgeoned him about the head with a 20-inch metal bar and smashed his head against the wall.
I think it was the handle to the mop squeegee, right?
They said it was an iron pipe.
Yeah, it was. I think it was, if I remember correctly, it was, you know how in a mop bucket, you have the thing where you put the mop inside the damn thing that squeezes it all out?
Yeah.
I think it was the handle that came out of that.
Yeah, I don't know if it was that or if it was something from the shower or something like that.
Which is about 20 inches long.
Yeah. But he had been beaten to death with that. Now, what I didn't realize was that Christopher Scarver, the guy that did it, he killed that other inmate, too, that was with him, Jesse Anderson. He killed both of them. He beat both of them to death. And Jeffrey Dahmer wasn't killed outright. They just found him and his head was all bashed in, and they took him to the hospital, but he died a couple days, or he died that same day, and then Anderson also died from his wounds like a couple days later. Christopher Scarver had actually been, he had committed a murder in 1990, and he was serving a life sentence, and he just went and told them, he's like, yeah, I killed those 2. He said, God told me to. Like...
He fessed up to it.
Yeah, immediately.
104.
he was already in there for life, so he didn't really have anything to lose.
Yeah.
He said God told me to do it.
Yeah.
And said he hadn't really planned it. He just kind of like did it and God told him to. But then later on, he said that the two guys were picking on him, like they were poking him, and he just got like sick of it or something. He also said that everybody hated Jeffrey Dahmer because Jeffrey Dahmer was like really cocky about his crimes, and he would do shit like the guy said that he was unrepentant and that he would do shit like he would take his food and like arrange it to look like human limbs and like spray ketchup on it and be like, hey, this is you guys, I'm gonna eat you, haha. Isn't that funny? So like some of the, like that guy said that and like some of the inmates said that. And so like everybody hated him because he was like creepy and did shit like that all the time.
Yeah.
So no one was really all that sad that he died. I mean, other than his mom. Like, his mom very famously, like, went in the media after and said something like, oh, okay, well, somebody bludgeoned him to death. Is everybody happy now? And I think most of the victims' families were like, yeah, we are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, the guy, Christopher Scarver, the guy that killed him, he did get another life sentence, but he was already in there for life, so he didn't really give a shit. But yeah, so... yeah, he got beaten to death in jail. Now, there was a little bit of controversy afterward because they were, the fucking apartment building that he lived in, they ended up having to tear it down because of the stigma around it. Also, all of his stuff, they were going to auction it off, and then, like, this group got together and was like, man, we don't want anybody, like, profiting off that or anything like that. So they, like, raised a bunch of money to buy all his stuff and then, like, destroy it. Like, burn all of it. Yeah. Like, all of his furniture and shit like that. So they did all that. Just they were trying to, like, just wipe him off the fucking map, you know? So I think that his dad might still be alive. His mom died of cancer back in 2000. But I think his dad and his stepmom are still alive.
Damn, that put him in their 90s, though, wouldn't it?
Yeah, they gotta be pretty fucking old, right?
Yeah, I bet you they're not alive.
I would think. But, I mean, yeah, his biological mom died. Now, his brother David... apparently changed his name and fucking went incognito, and I can't say that I blame the guy.
Jeffrey Dahmer kind of reminds me, I associate him with the time right before I went into the Army.
Yeah.
Because I remember when they caught his ass, I was listening to it on the radio, I was hand loading a bunch of 45 ACP, and I think I was just getting ready to go down and fucking talk to the recruiter.
Huh.
Yeah, around that time. It's fucking something else.
Yeah, this is a fucking crazy story.
Yeah,
and like I said,
ago.
What the hell is wrong with Wisconsin with all this fucking...
It
does seem like it's weird because California and California seems to have a thing with like these kind of sexual sadist type, like Ted Bundy type killers and shit like that. Obviously not because they have them from everywhere.
And spree killers.
But yeah, spree killers. That seems to be like a largely California thing. Yeah. Wisconsin or Midwest
cannibals.
Well, Midwest crimes seem to be like really gruesome.
Yeah,
axe murders, cannibal crimes, like people making shit out of dead bodies. Like what the fuck, man?
And Florida's just totally off the fucking wall.
Well, I think it's because Florida, most people are not from here.
It attracts people.
So it attracts people because the weather's nice and shit like that. Yeah. So I think
it
like
might be nice, depends on your standards.
Well,
to me, it's hot as fuck.
I don't like it. I'm just saying that most people think the weather's nice if they grew up like somewhere really cold. Yeah. So everybody comes here from everywhere. So you get like all the crazy people from all they're all like congregating.
Yeah.
Like I was born in Florida, but I don't know that many people that were. Most people are from somewhere else. So
yeah,
I definitely do think that it's kind of like a magnet for wackos.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
So it's California.
Yeah, well, like anywhere where the weather is kind of nice and warm or mild or whatever, and you get like all these people wanting to get out of the cold and whatnot.
California is now full. It's not attracting people the way it used to. When I grew up in California, you know what I mean? Fucking California was a magnet.
Well, yeah,
the California of the 70s reminds me very much of Florida now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where you got all these people coming from New York and everything.
Well, and Florida is still relatively inexpensive.
Yeah, and it's semi-rural.
I will say, though, that the wages are low in Florida.
Yeah. But the dollar goes much further than it did in, say, like in Boston, when I was living in Boston.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The cost of living here is fucking pretty low.
It is, yeah. Depending. But like I said, the wages are low, too, depending on what line of work you're in. But
Florida reminds me a lot of California back in its heyday.
Yeah.
Yeah. When there was still countryside and still, you know what I mean? California's run down now. I got half my family there, and that's where I'm from. You know what I mean? It's too much fucking traffic.
Yeah.
Too much fucking...
Well, I feel like Florida is going to be like that.
It will be that, but it'll take about another 20 years.
Probably.
If they
because
don't
we'll
do
just
something
even
about
look, and like I said, we might have brought this up before, but it's like where we live used to be fairly rural.
Yeah.
And in the last we've lived here for what, 8-9 years?
It's now suburbs.
And now it's like suburb. It's like seriously, there's houses everywhere, there's stores everywhere, there's restaurants everywhere. And most of the shit, like 80% of the shit was not here when we moved in.
Yeah, and it's all expensive stuff.
Yeah, it's all like big mansions and shit.
Yeah. Trump and his buddies have houses up the street from here. Then all the basketball players have street, right up here on fucking Markham Woods.
And there's a bunch of like big, huge, sprawling like horse farms.
And then there's fucking all these really nice enclosed communities here, and we're in one of them. We're in one of the newer ones.
Yeah.
And then
I think ours is 10 or 11 years old, something like that.
Yeah, and then out of nowhere, we used to feel like we were in the country, and out of nowhere,
it did seem like that.
They built like 5 more of these things in this area, just like right around here, and then they started putting fucking street lights and intersection lights.
Yeah, we were like,
what the fuck? Stoplights?
And that wasn't here before.
Yeah, and then they built a McDonald's, and then they're building this and that, and this and that.
Some of that stuff was there. Like I think that Walgreens was there.
It was there,
and I think that grocery store was there. But like they
start building food. They're fast food.
Yeah, they built all kind of fast food. They built like a shit ton of restaurants. They just built.
Yeah, within less. What is that? A mile away?
Yeah. I think it's. Let me see. I walked it one time. It might be. I think it's almost 2 miles.
Yeah. So
or a mile and 3/4.
And then they're building that damn freeway.
Yeah, and then like on the other side of it, they're building a fucking freeway overpass.
Yeah, they built a whole fucking freeway to
like maybe 2 or 3 miles from here
to come out here.
Yeah.
And that's mind-blowing compared to, remember 8 years ago?
There was nothing out there.
We thought we were isolated.
There was nothing out there.
We thought we were out here and we felt like we had infiltrated the rich people's territory.
Yeah, it's like, ooh, we live out here.
In the exclusive area. Nobody's out here.
Yeah, out in the forest.
No, now we're now in the upper middle class suburbs and upper class suburbs.
And there's just shit everywhere. They're building shit everywhere.
Every fucking where.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Where there was nothing.
There's going to be fucking restaurants and all kinds of stuff, like just fucking right out back here.
I mean, in a way, it's nice because, shit's there and you can go to it. And because I don't really like living out in the middle of nowhere. Like I said, my mom and my stepdad, they live out in the middle of Ocala National Forest, and it's like, seems like a big pain in the ass. Because it's like you have to drive really, really far to get anywhere. And I don't like that. But, I mean, it's not too bad where we are. It's still fairly quiet.
In Sanford, out in that direction, used to be the ghetto.
Yeah.
But now they're kicking all those poor people out. Get the fuck out of here. It's all becoming high income.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they're like
you can't afford to live out here. Get the fuck out of here. That's what they're telling them, basically.
They're refurbishing
everything, all the downtown. They're fucking building clubs out there. Fucking Big Tom bought that fucking bar out there.
Yeah, a friend of ours bought a bar. Yeah. Just right before the fucking coronavirus.
Right before the coronavirus.
Like a couple months he opened. He was so excited. He's been wanting to open a bar for a long time.
Yeah.
And it was doing really well.
Yeah.
But it's like then he had to close it.
He's this really fucking funny, big old fucking cool black dude that's a friend of mine. We call him Big Tom.
Well, we met him at iBar. We've known him for years.
He wanted me to manage that place for him.
Yeah.
But it was just like, Tom, man, fucking. He goes, no, man, I'll give you $40,000. And I was like, Tom, man, you don't fucking need me, man. We just did some quick consulting for him, how to decorate.
Yeah, like we went there before he opened and like gave him ideas about how to set everything up.
He sends me pictures. He goes, you know what, Ross, you're right. I didn't need you. As I told you. I told you, Tom, because we're both Toms, and fucking Mary.
Well, that's why we call him Big Tom.
Yeah, Tom, Big Tom,
because he's real tall.
Yeah, Big Tom, Little Tom. And fucking, I said, I ain't gonna take your money I ain't gonna take your money, Tom. Fucking knock that shit off, man. You can run this shit.
And he's doing it.
Yeah.
But like I said, it kind of sucked that he had to close it. He has a package store license, so like if you want to buy booze, you can go there and buy booze from him.
Yeah. And he's got a bunch of fucking tire shops.
Yeah, he's got like a whole bunch of businesses. It's not just that.
Tom, back in the day at the club, fucking Tom realized he could trust me when he fucking pulled out that big fucking wad of money and tried to hand me that money. I said, man, put your fucking money away. when you just deny, when you tell a man you don't have to pay him, then all of a sudden, you know, he trusts you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's nice. He's nice.
Nice
dude,
yeah.
Him and his wife are both super cool.
Yeah.
And their son is nice too.
Yeah, they got 2 sons.
That's right.
Yeah.
I just know that one because he comes.
They're like
to the club all
hip-hop
the time.
artists.
Yeah.
Yeah,
super nice family. Yeah. All right, so you want to wrap up the Jeffrey Dahmer show? Sorry, we went into the cooking thing. I know that's very tasteless. Oh shit, I did it again. God damn it. All right. I hope you guys enjoyed this fucking show about this motherfucker.
Yeah, and, fuck that dude.
Well, he's dead, so it's all right. So remember, if you like the show, like, share, subscribe on all your social media. If you'd like to financially support the show, it'd be much appreciated. You go to our what was I going to say? Oh, you can go to our Patreon page, patreon.com/13o'clockpodcast, or go to our blog, 13o'clockpodcast.wordpress.com. And there's a button in the sidebar that goes to a PayPal account where you can give a one-time donation. Also, remember to go follow us on Instagram. I'm still posting shit on there like once or twice a day, trying to keep that up, and I'm trying to get more followers. So go over there and do that if you have an Instagram account. And that'll do it for episode 189. We will see you next time. Bye.